I need you to come get me." Hannah Whitmore's voice cracked as she sat alone on cold marble steps, watching her sister's wedding celebration through crystal doors she wasn't invited to enter. Inside, champagne flowed and cameras flashed, capturing a perfect family that had never included her. Behind those smiles was a lifetime of cruelty disguised as love, exploitation dressed up as family duty. Tonight, everything would shatter. One phone call would expose their secrets. One arrival would change everything. Stay until the end to see how Hannah finally breaks free. Like this video and comment your city, so I can see how far this story reaches across the world. The June humidity clung to Hannah's skin like shame as she pressed herself against the west wall of the Thornbridge estate, hidden in shadows cast by ornamental hedges her mother had insisted on. Through the French doors she could see everything: the gleaming dance floor, the tower of champagne glasses catching light like diamonds, the ice sculpture of two swans that cost more than her monthly rent. She could see her sister Melissa spinning in her $15,000 gown, blonde hair cascading perfectly down her back. She could see her mother, Patricia Whitmore, commanding the room in emerald silk, accepting compliments like a queen receiving tribute. She could see her father, Richard, distinguished and silver-haired, his arm around successful guests, his laugh carrying authority. What she couldn't see was herself, because inside that glittering celebration, Hannah Whitmore didn't exist. The lavender bridesmaid dress they'd chosen for her, 2 sizes too small, deliberately, cut into her ribs with each breath. They'd known. When she'd quietly mentioned it didn't fit at the final fitting, her mother had smiled that particular smile, the one that looked warm to strangers but froze Hannah's blood. "You've always been bigger than Melissa," Patricia had said, her voice honey-sweet in front of the seamstress. "Perhaps this will motivate you." The seamstress had looked uncomfortable. Hannah had said nothing. She never did. Now, perched on the marble steps leading to the garden, steps she'd been told to use instead of the main entrance because we need to keep the aesthetic clean, Hannah felt the full weight of 28 years pressing down on her chest. Inside, someone clinked a glass. The crowd quieted for toasts. Hannah pulled out her phone, her hands trembling slightly. She should delete what she was about to do. Should stand up, smooth this ridiculous dress, and walk back inside to stand in her designated corner, out of frame, out of sight, out of mind. Instead, her thumb hovered over a name in her contacts. Ethan Cross. The music swelled inside. Melissa's laugh, that perfect crystalline sound that had always come so easily to her, rang out above everything else. Hannah pressed call. 3 months earlier, the kitchen alchemist smelled like heaven at 6 in the morning. Hannah moved through her domain with the precision of a conductor, her hand steady as she piped delicate buttercream roses onto a 3-tier wedding cake. Vanilla and almond extract perfumed the air. The industrial ovens hummed their familiar song. This was her sanctuary, the only place where she felt truly herself. "Boss, the Carmichael order is ready for pickup," her assistant Maya called from the front. "And you've got someone here to see you about a custom order. Says he doesn't have an appointment, but it's urgent." Hannah glanced at the clock. 6:47 a.m. Most clients didn't even know she started this early. "Give me 5 minutes to finish this tier." She'd started the Kitchen Alchemist 4 years ago with nothing but a $1,000 loan from a friend, a commercial kitchen rental, and recipes she'd perfected in her cramped apartment oven. While her family had openly mocked her little baking hobby, she'd built something real, something that mattered. "The restaurant business?" her father had said at a family dinner, his tone dismissive. 90% fail in the first year, Hannah, but I suppose everyone needs to learn their own lessons." "It's not a restaurant, Dad. It's a specialty bakery." Same difference. He'd already turned away, back to discussing Melissa's promotion at the marketing firm. Real success, measurable, respectable. But the Kitchen Alchemist hadn't failed. Against every odd, every doubt, every casual dismissal from her family, she'd survived that first year. Then thrived. Her wedding cakes had been featured in 2 regional bridal magazines. Her pastries supplied 3 high-end restaurants. She had a waiting list, none of which her family had ever acknowledged. Hannah set down her piping bag and wiped her hands on her apron. When she pushed through the swinging door to the front, she stopped short. The man standing in her small reception area didn't belong there. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly lease, perfectly tailored to broad shoulders and a lean frame. Dark hair, sharp jawline, and eyes that took in everything with unsettling intensity. He was examining the photos on her wall, her cakes, her creations, with genuine focus. "Mr. Cross?" Maya whispered unnecessarily. "Hannah Whitmore, the owner." He turned, and Hannah felt the strangest sensation, like being seen for the first time in her life. "Miss Whitmore," his voice was deep, measured. "I apologize for the early hour. I'm Ethan Cross. I need a cake." "I gathered that." Hannah smiled, trying to ignore the way her heart had inexplicably jumped. "What's the occasion?" "My mother's 60th birthday, 3 weeks from now." He pulled out his phone, showing her a photo of an elegant woman with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair. "She's, particular. I've been to 6 bakeries. They all showed me catalogs, standard designs. I was told your work is different." Hannah studied the photo. "Tell me about her." Ethan blinked, clearly not expecting the question. "What do you mean?" "Her favorite color. What makes her laugh? Does she garden, travel? What does she love?" Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or recognition. "She collects vintage botanical illustrations. Orchids, specifically. She says they're proof that nature can be both delicate and fierce." Hannah smiled, really smiled. "I can work with that." For the next 20 minutes, they talked. Not about fondant versus buttercream, not about budget or logistics. Those details came later. They talked about his mother's library filled with 19th century botanical prints, about the greenhouse she maintained, about the quiet strength that had raised Ethan and his 2 siblings alone after his father died. "She never remarried," Ethan said quietly. "Said she'd already had her great love. Everything else was just noise." "That's beautiful," Hannah said, and meant it. "It's rare." His dark eyes met hers with that intensity again. Real love usually is. Something in the air shifted, became charged. Maya's phone rang in the back office, breaking the moment. Ethan cleared his throat. "Can you do it? The cake?" "Yes." Hannah was already sketching in her mind. Hand-painted orchids, each one different, watercolor effect on white fondant, delicate but fierce. "Perfect." He pulled out a business card, slid it across the counter. "Whatever you need, just contact my office." Hannah glanced at the card. Her stomach dropped. Cross Industries. Ethan Cross, CEO. She'd heard the name. Everyone in the city had. Cross Industries owned half the downtown skyline, had a finger in everything from real estate to technology. She'd just spent 20 minutes casually chatting with a billionaire about orchids. "Is something wrong?" Ethan asked. "No, I didn't realize that I have money." A slight smile played at his lips. "Does it change the cake?" "No." "Then it doesn't matter." He headed for the door, then paused. "Hannah. May I call you Hannah?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. "Thank you for asking about her, about what she loves. Most people just want to know what I'll pay." He opened the door, sunlight streaming in behind him. "I'll call later this week to confirm details." After he left, Maya appeared beside her. "Did that just happen? Did Ethan Cross just order a cake from us?" Hannah stared at the business card in her hand, her name written on the back in bold, confident handwriting. "Yeah," she said softly. "I think he did." The cake had been everything Ethan wanted and more. 3 days after his mother's birthday party, he'd called the bakery himself, not through an assistant, not through his office. "She cried," he'd told Hannah. When she saw the orchids, she actually cried. She said it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen, that someone truly understood her. "I'm so glad." Hannah had been in the middle of prepping a tiered chocolate ganache cake, but she'd stopped completely, phone pressed to her ear. "I'd like to place another order," Ethan said, "for my company's annual gala. 200 guests. I want you to create something unexpected." "Unexpected how?" "Surprise me. You have complete creative freedom." No client had ever said that to her before. "Mr. Cross." "Ethan." "Ethan," she corrected, feeling the name strange and intimate on her tongue. "Complete creative freedom is dangerous. I might create something you hate." "I doubt that." There was warmth in his voice now, something almost playful. But if I do hate it, I'll eat my words along with the cake. She'd laughed despite herself. That's a terrible pun. I'm not known for my humor. See what you're doing to me already? The gala cake had been a risk. A geometric modern design in midnight blue and gold, sharp angles and clean lines that reflected his company's architecture downtown. When he'd seen it, standing in his office's conference room where she'd personally delivered it, he'd gone very still. You hate it, Hannah said, her stomach sinking. No. He'd walked around it slowly, taking in every angle. I'm wondering how you knew. Knew what? That this is exactly what I would have created if I had any artistic talent whatsoever. He looked at her then, really looked at her. You have a gift for seeing people, Hannah, for understanding what they can't say. It should have felt like flattery. Instead, it felt like truth. After that, he'd become a regular client. Corporate events, family celebrations, gifts for business partners. But somewhere between the third and fourth order, something had shifted. The calls lasted longer. He started stopping by the bakery instead of just phoning in orders, usually early in the morning when he knew she'd be there alone. They talked about everything except the one thing that hummed between them, this strange, growing connection that neither acknowledged but both felt. Your family must be proud, Ethan said one morning, watching her work on a sugar sculpture. Building all this from nothing. Hannah's hands had stilled on the delicate sugar petals. They think it's nice. Nice. His tone suggested he'd caught the lie. They're not really the type to... She searched for words that wouldn't sound like betrayal. They have different definitions of success. Which are? Corporate ladder, six-figure salaries, country club memberships. She shaped another petal, not looking at him. Things you can quantify and compare. And you can't quantify beauty? Ethan picked up one of her finished sugar flowers, held it up to the light. It was almost translucent, impossibly delicate. Can't measure the skill it takes to create something that makes people stop and stare? Not in my family. He'd set the flower down carefully. Then your family is blind. That was 8 weeks ago. Now, sitting on cold marble steps in a dress that didn't fit, at a wedding where she was less than a ghost, Hannah held her phone and wondered if she'd imagined all of it, the way Ethan looked at her, the conversations that stretched long after business was concluded, the feeling that someone finally saw her, really saw her. The phone rang once, twice. Hannah? His voice came through, alert despite the late hour. Is everything all right? The simple question broke something inside her chest. When was the last time someone had asked if she was all right and actually wanted the answer? Her voice cracked. She swallowed hard, tried again. Can you come get me? Silence on the other end, but not empty silence. Listening silence. Where are you? No hesitation, no questions about why or what happened or whether it could wait. The Thornbridge estate, my sister's wedding, She looked down at the ridiculous lavender dress, at her bare feet because the matching shoes had given her blisters within an hour and no one had noticed her limping. I can't do this anymore. I'm on my way. Ethan, it's almost midnight. I'm already getting my keys. Stay on the line with me. So she did. She sat on those cold steps and listened to sounds on the other end. A door closing, an engine starting, the quiet hum of expensive machinery. Talk to me, Ethan said. What happened? Hannah closed her eyes. Where did she even start? The trouble had begun 6 weeks ago, right after Melissa's engagement party. Hannah had arrived at her parents' house with champagne and a tray of her famous chocolate truffles, each one handmade, each one perfect. She'd found her family in the formal living room, Melissa holding court with her new fiancé Marcus, a corporate attorney with the right pedigree and the right connections. Hannah! Her mother's greeting was bright, performative. We were just talking about the wedding cake. Oh? Hannah had set down her offerings. Melissa, did you want to schedule a tasting? I can do something really special. Actually, Melissa interrupted, exchanging a look with their mother, we were hoping you'd donate it, as your gift to us. The word donate had landed like a stone in Hannah's stomach. Melissa, a wedding cake for 200 people. You're my sister. Melissa's blue eyes went wide, wounded. I thought you'd want to do this for me. Of course I want to, but this is my business. The ingredients alone for a cake that size, always about money with you, her father said from his armchair, not even looking up from his phone. Can't do one thing for family without calculating the cost. Hannah's cheeks had burned. Dad, that's not... I just meant... We've always supported your little bakery, Patricia cut in smoothly. Recommended you to friends, talked you up at parties. The least you could do is one cake. The least you could do. The words that had followed Hannah her entire life. She'd looked around the room, at Melissa's perfect pout, at her mother's expectant expression, at her father's dismissive profile, at Marcus, who looked vaguely uncomfortable but said nothing. Okay, Hannah heard herself say. Okay, I'll do it. Wonderful, Patricia clapped her hands together. Now we're thinking 10 tiers, white fondant with gold leaf, sugar flowers matching the bouquet. 10 tiers? Hannah's voice rose despite herself. Mom, that's not a cake. That's an installation. That would take... You said you'd do it. Melissa's voice turned sharp. Are you backing out already? No, I just... Can we maybe scale it back a bit? 8 tiers would still be stunning, and why are you always like this? Melissa stood abruptly. Why do you always have to make everything difficult? I'm getting married, Hannah. This is supposed to be my special day, and you're nitpicking about tiers. I'm not nitpicking. I'm trying to... Forget it. Melissa's eyes glittered with tears that Hannah knew were calculated, practiced. Just forget I asked. I'll find a real bakery that actually cares about quality. Melissa, wait. But her sister had already swept from the room, Marcus trailing dutifully behind her. Hannah stood frozen, chocolate truffles untouched on the coffee table. Look what you've done, Patricia said coldly. Your sister is in tears. I didn't mean to upset her. I was just... You were being selfish. Her father finally looked up, his expression hard, as usual. Hannah had left that night with a sick feeling in her stomach and a commitment to create a 10-tier wedding cake, for free, that would take 2 weeks of work and cost her thousands in materials. She'd thrown herself into it anyway, because maybe, some small voice whispered, if she made it perfect enough, beautiful enough, they'd finally see her worth. The cake became her obsession. She'd sketched designs until her hand cramped, tested flavor combinations until Maya begged her to stop. She'd decided on champagne vanilla cake with raspberry preserves and Swiss meringue buttercream, each tier a different height to create visual drama. The sugar flowers alone took 40 hours. Peonies and roses and delicate sweet pea blossoms, each petal painted by hand with edible luster dust. Ethan had stopped by the bakery during the final week of creation. What's this for? He'd stood beside her work table, watching her pipe royal icing details onto a practice tier. My sister's wedding. It's extraordinary. He leaned closer. The level of detail here. Hannah, this is museum quality work. She'd felt a flush of pride despite her exhaustion. Thank you. How much are they paying you? The question caught her off guard. Oh, they're not. It's my gift. Ethan had gone very still. Your gift. She's my sister. This represents what? 2 weeks of full-time work, hundreds of hours? Materials alone must be... It's fine. Hannah had cut him off, uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Really? But Ethan's expression had darkened. Do they know what this costs? What you're giving up in other orders to make this? Their family. That's not an answer. Hannah had set down her piping bag. Why does it matter to you? Because... He'd stopped himself, jaw tight. Because I've seen how talented you are. I've seen people pay thousands for pieces that don't come close to this level of artistry. And the fact that your own family expects you to just donate it? He shook his head. It's not right, Hannah. You don't understand family dynamics. I understand exploitation. The word had hung between them, sharp and ugly. Hannah had wanted to argue, to defend her family, to explain that it was more complicated than that. But looking at the cake, at the hours of work, the skill, the love she'd poured into something they'd demanded as their due, she'd felt something crack inside her chest. They're not bad people, she'd said quietly. They don't see things the way you do. Ethan had studied her for a long moment. The question is, how do you see things? Before she could answer, Maya had called from the front about a customer, and the moment passed. But the question lingered. Now, 2 days before the wedding, that question felt like prophecy. Hannah had delivered the completed cake that afternoon, transporting each tier with painstaking care to the Thornbridge Estate's kitchen. She'd assembled it on site, working for 3 hours to stack and stabilize and perfect every element. When she'd stepped back, even the jaded event coordinator had gasped. I've been doing weddings for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like this. Hannah had felt a surge of pride. Maybe when her family saw it, really saw it. But when Patricia and Melissa had swept into the kitchen for final inspection, their reactions had been different. "It's fine," Melissa said, barely glancing at it. "A little shorter than I imagined, but fine." Fine. 40 hours of sugar flowers, 2 weeks of work, thousands of dollars in materials. Fine. "Hannah, darling," Patricia had said, "while you're here, we need to discuss the rehearsal dinner tomorrow night." "Oh, I didn't realize I was invited to—" "Not invited exactly, but we need someone to manage the dessert service. You know caterers, they never plate things properly. You could oversee that, couldn't you?" Hannah had stared at her mother. "You want me to work the rehearsal dinner? Is that a problem?" Patricia's tone suggested it better not be. "No, I thought I'd be there as family." "You will be. You'll just also be making sure everything runs smoothly. You're so good at that." Patricia patted her arm absently. "Oh, and about the bridesmaid dress. It fits now, doesn't it? You haven't gained any more weight." Hannah had left without answering. That evening, she'd been sitting in her apartment, staring at her closet where the lavender dress hung, when her phone rang. "Ethan, tell me you have plans tonight," he'd said without preamble. What?" "Dinner. With me. Unless you have something better to do than rescue me from a business dinner I'm dreading." Hannah had laughed despite herself. "Are you asking me on a date or hiring me as a buffer? Can it be both?" She should have said no, should have maintained the professional distance that had already blurred beyond recognition. Instead, she'd found herself saying, "Pick me up at 7. Dinner had been at a small Italian restaurant in the old part of town, the kind of place with candles and wine bottles and checkered tablecloths and absolutely nothing fancy or corporate about it. "I thought you were dreading a business dinner," Hannah had said when they sat down. "I lied." Ethan's smile was unapologetic. "I just wanted to see you. Was that wrong?" Her heart had done that jumping thing again. "That depends on your intentions." "My intentions," he'd said slowly, "are to spend time with someone who makes me forget about quarterly reports and board meetings and all the noise that usually fills my head. Is that acceptable?" They'd talked for 3 hours. About everything and nothing. Her dreams of opening a second location, his frustration with family business expectations, her complicated relationship with her parents, his mother's recent health scare. Somewhere between this pasta and the tiramisu, his hand had found hers across the table. "Can I tell you something?" Ethan had said. "Anything. The first time I walked into your bakery, I was planning to place one order and never come back. I don't do personal relationships with vendors." He'd rubbed his thumb across her knuckles. "But then you asked about my mother. Not about timeline or budget or logistics, about her, who she was, what she loved, and I realized I'd never met anyone like you." "Like me how?" "Someone who actually sees people, who cares about the details that matter." His dark eyes had held hers. Someone genuine in a world full of performance. Hannah had felt tears prick her eyes. "Ethan, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know." He'd signaled for the check. "Come on, let me drive you home." In his car, sleek and expensive and somehow still understated, the city lights had blurred past in comfortable silence. When he'd pulled up to her building, he'd turned to face her. "Hannah, what your family is doing, please don't. It's not okay." He'd continued anyway. "The way they take you for granted, the way they diminish your work, your worth. They're my family. That's not an excuse for how they treat you." Hannah had reached for the door handle. "Thank you for dinner. Wait." His hand caught hers. "I'm sorry. I overstepped." "You didn't. You're seeing things that I've been trying not to see for a very long time. She'd looked at him then, really looked at him. And it scares me. Why? Because if I see it too clearly, I'll have to do something about it. Ethan had cupped her face with one hand, gentle but sure. Would that be so terrible? She'd leaned into his touch despite herself. Yes, because they're all I have. That's not true, isn't it? You have a successful business. You have talent. You have friends who respect you. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. And you have someone who would very much like to be more than your client, if you'd let him. Her breath had caught. Ethan, I'm not asking for an answer tonight. I'm just asking you to consider the possibility that you deserve better than what they give you. Then he'd kissed her, soft and careful and full of promise. Hannah had floated up to her apartment in a daze, her lips tingling, her heart pounding, her mind reeling. For one perfect night, she'd felt seen, valued, wanted. Now, sitting on cold marble steps while her sister's wedding celebration continued without her, that memory felt like another lifetime. The phone against her ear carried the sound of Ethan's car, moving fast through city streets. Still there? He asked. Still here. 15 minutes. Just hold on for 15 more minutes. Hannah closed her eyes. Inside, someone clinked a glass again. More toasts, more laughter. She thought about the rehearsal dinner last night, where she'd stood in the corner managing dessert service while her family toasted Melissa and Marcus. Thought about arriving at the estate this morning to find no place card with her name at the reception. Thought about the family photos before the ceremony. Are you ready, girls? The photographer had called. Hannah had stepped forward automatically, only to have Patricia's hand land on her shoulder. Just Melissa and her bridesmaids for this set, dear. You can wait here. But we need to keep the aesthetic consistent. Patricia had already turned away. The lavender dresses, you understand? Hannah had understood perfectly. She was wearing the same lavender dress. She just wasn't part of the aesthetic. During the ceremony, she'd sat alone in the back row. During cocktail hour, she'd helped the caterers when someone spilled champagne. During dinner, she'd taken the one empty seat at a table full of distant relatives who didn't remember her name. And through it all, she'd told herself it was fine, that she was being sensitive, that every family had complicated dynamics. Then came the announcement. Richard Whitmore had stood during dessert, commanding attention the way he always did. Before we continue with dancing, Patricia and I have some news to share. Hannah's stomach had clenched with instinctive dread. As you know, we're planning to downsize now that both our girls are settled. Richard's smile was warm, paternal. We've found a lovely condo downtown, just the two of us, as it should be. Applause. Melissa beaming. Which means, Patricia continued, we'll be selling the house. And Hannah, her mother's eyes found her in the back of the room. Sweetheart, you'll need to find your own place. We're giving you 30 days. That should be plenty of time, shouldn't it? The room had gone quiet. 30 days. Announced at her sister's wedding, in front of 200 people, like it was nothing. Like she was nothing. Hannah had felt every eye turn to her, waiting for her reaction, waiting to see what the family disappointment would do. She'd stood carefully, the too tight dress cutting into her ribs. Excuse me, she'd said to no one in particular, and she'd walked out. Hannah? Ethan's voice pulled her back to the present. I'm pulling up now. Where exactly are you? West side of the building. The garden entrance. I see it. Moments later, headlights swept across the hedges. A sleek black car rolled to a stop in the circular drive. The engine cut, and Ethan emerged. He'd clearly been at some formal event himself, still in a tuxedo, tie loosened, looking like he'd stepped out of a movie, but his eyes were only on her as he crossed the distance between them. Hannah. She stood on shaking legs, and that's when she realized she'd been crying. Mascara must be running, hair falling from its updo, barefoot in a dress that didn't fit, looking every inch the disaster her family believed she was. Ethan's jaw tightened as he took her in. Who do I need to destroy? The question was so unexpected, so fierce, that Hannah laughed, a broken, watery sound. All of them, none of them, I don't even know anymore. He shrugged out of his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. It smelled like expensive cologne and something uniquely him. Come on, let's get you out of here. Wait. Hannah looked back at the estate, at the warm light spilling from every window, at the celebration continuing without her. I should tell them I'm leaving. Do you, though? She met his eyes. In them, she saw no judgment, no disappointment, just steady, solid support. No, she whispered. I guess I don't. He offered his hand. For a long moment, Hannah stared at it. Taking it felt like stepping off a cliff. Taking it meant acknowledging everything Ethan had tried to tell her, that her family didn't value her, didn't see her, didn't deserve her. Taking it meant choosing herself. She placed her hand in his. Ethan's fingers closed around hers, warm and sure. There's my girl. They were halfway to the car when the terrace doors burst open behind them. Hannah! Patricia's voice cut through the night like glass. Hannah Whitmore, where do you think you're going? Hannah stopped. Ethan's hand tightened on hers. Don't, he said quietly. You don't owe her anything. But years of conditioning pulled Hannah around anyway. Her mother stood in the doorway, backlit by the party, her expression furious. You're making a scene, Patricia hissed, clicking toward them in her heels. Leaving without a word, disrupting your sister's wedding. I'm not disrupting anything, Hannah said. No one even noticed I was gone. Don't be dramatic. Of course people noticed. Patricia's eyes flicked to Ethan, taking in his protective stance, his hand still holding Hannah's. And who is this? Ethan Cross. He didn't offer his hand. I'm taking Hannah home. I wasn't aware my daughter had a... Patricia's eyes narrowed as recognition dawned. Cross Industries? That's correct. Hannah watched her mother's expression shift from anger to calculation in an instant. Mr. Cross, I apologize for my daughter's behavior. She's been under stress lately. She's under stress because you've spent her entire life making her feel worthless. The words landed like bombs in the quiet night. Patricia's face went white, then red. How dare you? How dare I? Ethan's voice remained level, but there was steel underneath. How dare you announce you're evicting your daughter at her sister's wedding? How dare you demand she create a masterpiece worth thousands and call it a gift? How dare you stuff her in a dress that doesn't fit and act like she should be grateful? You know nothing about our family. I know your daughter is the most talented person in this city, and you've spent years convincing her she's not good enough. He stepped forward slightly, still holding Hannah's hand. I know she has built something extraordinary from nothing, and you couldn't be bothered to acknowledge it. I know she deserves so much better than what you've given her. Patricia's mouth opened and closed. For the first time in Hannah's memory, her mother had no response. Hannah, Patricia finally said, turning to her daughter, are you going to let him speak to me this way? The question hung in the air. A month ago, Hannah would have apologized, would have smoothed things over, made herself small, begged forgiveness for someone else's words. Now, she looked at her mother, really looked at her, at the woman who had criticized every pound, every career choice, every moment of Hannah's existence, who had taken her work and called it a gift, who had excluded her from family photos at her own sister's wedding. Yeah, Hannah said softly, I am. Patricia's expression crumbled into something ugly. Fine, leave. But don't come crying back when this, she gestured at Ethan, doesn't work out. Don't expect us to welcome you back with open arms. I won't. Hannah felt something settle in her chest, something like certainty. I'm done expecting anything from you. She turned back to Ethan's car, not waiting for a response. As they walked away, Patricia's voice followed them. You're going to regret this. You're throwing away your family for some man you barely know. Hannah didn't look back. Ethan opened the passenger door for her, waited until she was settled, then closed it with decisive finality. As he walked around to the driver's side, Hannah caught a glimpse of movement in the estate windows, faces pressed to glass, watching. Her family, her sister, all of them witnessing her departure. Good, she thought. Let them watch. Ethan slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. Before pulling away, he looked at her. Are you okay? Hannah thought about the question. Was she okay? She'd just walked away from her entire family. She had 30 days to find a new place to live. She'd publicly burned bridges she'd spent 28 years trying to cross. But sitting here, in this car, with a man who saw her worth even when she couldn't see it herself. Yeah, she said, and meant it. I think I finally am. As they pulled away from the Thornbridge estate, Hannah watched the lights grow smaller in the side mirror. Somewhere in that building was a 10-tier cake she'd poured her heart into, her final offering to people who would never appreciate it. She didn't feel sad about leaving it behind. She felt free. "Where to?" Ethan asked. Hannah looked at him, at this man who had shown up without question, who had defended her without hesitation, who had seen her when she was invisible to everyone else. "I don't know," she admitted. "I haven't thought past getting out of there. My place is 10 minutes away. You can stay as long as you need." "Ethan, I can't just—" "You can." He glanced at her. "Unless you'd rather I take you to your apartment, but given that it's technically your parents' house." He was right. Her apartment was the converted garage of her parents' home. She'd lived there since college, paying rent they'd claimed was helping with mortgage payments, but Hannah suspected went straight into their vacation fund. Even her housing had been conditional, temporary, borrowed. "Your place," she said quietly. They drove through the city in comfortable silence, the night wrapping around them like a cocoon. Hannah leaned her head against the window, watching familiar streets blur past. Everything looked different somehow. Or maybe she was different. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan's voice was gentle. "Anything." "When you called tonight, you said you couldn't do it anymore. What specifically broke?" Hannah closed her eyes, searching for words. "They took family photos today, before the ceremony. Every possible combination, parents with both daughters, just the sisters, parents with Melissa, grandparents with everyone." She swallowed hard. "I wasn't in a single one." "Jesus, Hannah. I stood there for an hour, watching them arrange and rearrange themselves. The photographer kept looking at me like he thought I should be included, but no one said anything. No one suggested it. I was just there, taking up space, wearing the same dress as the other bridesmaids, but somehow not actually part of the wedding party." "That's not a family." Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "That's systematic exclusion. I kept telling myself I was being sensitive, that it wasn't personal, that they were just focused on Melissa because it was her big day." Hannah opened her eyes, stared at the passing streetlights. "But then my dad made that announcement about selling the house, and the way he said it, like I was a tenant whose lease was up. Not his daughter, just someone who needed to vacate." "How long have you been living there?" 6 years, since I started the bakery. They said I could save money that way, build up my business." She laughed bitterly. "I've been paying them $800 a month for a converted garage." Ethan pulled up to a sleek high-rise building in the heart of downtown. A valet appeared immediately, opening Hannah's door before she could react. "Welcome back, Mr. Cross." "Thank you, James. This is Hannah. She'll be staying for a while." "Of course, sir." Hannah followed Ethan through a marble lobby to a private elevator. He pressed his thumb to a scanner, and the doors opened directly into a penthouse apartment that took up the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased the city lights below. Modern furniture in shades of gray and black created clean lines. Everything was immaculate, expensive, and somehow still warm. "Guest room is down the hall on the left," Ethan said, shrugging out of his jacket. "Bathroom attached. Help yourself to anything you need." Hannah stood in the middle of the living room, suddenly overwhelmed. "I don't have anything. Clothes, toothbrush. I left everything." "We'll fix that tomorrow." He disappeared into the kitchen, returned with a glass of water. "Tonight, you just breathe." She took the water with shaking hands. Now that the adrenaline was fading, the full weight of what she'd done was settling in. She'd walked away from her family, called her mother's bluff, burned bridges with no plan for what came next. "I'm homeless," she said suddenly. "Oh my God, I'm homeless." "You're not homeless. You're here. For tonight. But tomorrow and the day after that, Hannah." Ethan set down his own glass and took her hands. "You're not homeless. You're not alone, and you're not going to figure out everything tonight." He guided her to the couch, sat beside her. "Right now, you're going to take a breath and acknowledge that you just did something incredibly brave." "Brave?" She laughed, a slightly hysterical edge to it. "I ran away." "You chose yourself. That's different." "Is it?" "Yes." His thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. "Running away is fear. What you did tonight was clarity. You saw the situation for what it was and made a decision." Hannah leaned her head on his shoulder, exhaustion crashing over her. "What if I made the wrong decision?" Do you really think you did? She thought about her mother's face when Ethan had called her out, about the wedding photos she'd never be in, about the cake she'd spent weeks creating that Melissa had dismissed in 5 seconds, about a lifetime of being unseen, unheard, unvalued. No, she whispered. I don't think I did. Then stop second-guessing yourself. They sat like that for a long time, Hannah drawing strength from Ethan's solid presence beside her. Through the windows, the city glittered, thousands of lights, thousands of lives, thousands of possibilities. For the first time in her life, Hannah wasn't sure what came next. And strangely, that felt like freedom. Hannah woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the scent of fresh coffee. For one disoriented moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back, the wedding, the confrontation, Ethan's car cutting through the night. She sat up slowly, taking in the guest room. Soft gray walls, crisp white linens, a view of the city that made her former apartment, look like a shoebox. On the nightstand sat a folded t-shirt and sweatpants, clearly Ethan's, along with a note in bold handwriting. Thought you might want something more comfortable. Coffee's ready when you are. Hannah changed quickly, the oversized clothes hanging on her frame, but infinitely better than the lavender dress she'd abandoned in a heap on the floor. In the bathroom mirror, she looked like someone who'd been through a war. Mascara smudges under her eyes, hair a disaster, but something in her expression had changed. She looked tired, yes. Scared, definitely, but not small anymore. The coffee smell led her to a kitchen that belonged in a design magazine. Ethan stood at the counter in jeans and a plain white t-shirt, looking unfairly good for someone who'd probably gotten as little sleep as she had. Morning, he said, pouring coffee into a second mug. How do you take it? Cream, 2 sugars. Hannah slid onto a bar stool. You didn't have to let me crash here. I know. He set the mug in front of her, their fingers brushing briefly. I wanted to. The coffee was perfect, and Hannah hated how much that small kindness made her throat tight. I should call Maya. Let her know I won't be in today. Already texted her for you. Hope that's okay. At her startled look, Ethan added, You left your phone on the bathroom counter last night. The screen lit up with her message asking if you were all right. I just told her you were safe and would call later. Hannah wrapped both hands around the warm mug. She's going to have questions. Then answer them, or don't. Your life doesn't require explanations anymore. That's not how life works, Ethan. It is now. He leaned against the counter, studying her. What do you want to do today? The question should have been simple. Instead, it felt enormous. What did she want to do? For 28 years, her days had been dictated by other people's expectations, other people's needs, her family's demands, client deadlines, the constant background noise of trying to prove herself worthy. I don't know, she admitted. Okay, let me rephrase. What do you need to do today? That was easier. Find an apartment, pack my stuff before my parents change the locks. Figure out how to explain to everyone why I walked out of my sister's wedding. Those are all tasks, not needs. Ethan poured himself more coffee. What do you need, Hannah? For yourself, not for anyone else. She stared into her mug, watching cream swirl through dark liquid. I need to breathe. I need to not feel like I'm constantly drowning. Her voice cracked. I need to understand why I wasn't enough for them. Ethan set down his coffee and moved around the counter. Before Hannah could react, he'd pulled her into his arms, solid and warm and safe. You were always enough, he said quietly. They just couldn't see it. Hannah pressed her face against his chest and finally let herself cry. Not the quiet, hidden tears from last night, but deep, wrenching sobs that felt like they'd been building for years. Ethan held her through all of it, one hand stroking her hair, saying nothing because there was nothing to say. When the storm finally passed, Hannah pulled back, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of his shirt. Sorry, I got your shirt wet. I have others. He cupped her face, thumbs brushing away remaining tears. Better? A little. She managed a watery smile. I'm a mess. You're human. There's a difference. His phone buzzed on the counter, but he ignored it. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to take today to just exist. No packing, no apartment hunting, no explanations. Tomorrow, we'll tackle the logistics. But today, you rest. I can't just... Yes, you can. That's the point of choosing yourself, Hannah. You get to decide what you need. His phone buzzed again. Then again. Ethan glanced at it, and his expression darkened. What's wrong? Hannah asked. Your mother has been calling my office. Apparently she found my business card in your apartment. He showed her the screen. 7 missed calls, 3 voicemails. Want me to block the number? Hannah's stomach churned. What did she say? Ethan hesitated, then played the most recent voicemail on speaker. Patricia's voice filled the kitchen, syrupy and calculated. Mr. Cross? This is Patricia Whitmore, Hannah's mother. I'm terribly concerned about my daughter. She left the wedding quite upset last night, and I'm sure you can understand a mother's worry. If you could have her call home as soon as possible, we can clear up this little misunderstanding. Family is so important, don't you think? I'm sure once Hannah has calmed down, she'll see that we all just want what's best for her. The message ended. Hannah felt sick. Little misunderstanding, she repeated flatly. She announced my eviction at a wedding, and she's calling it a little misunderstanding, which is exactly why you're not calling her back. Ethan deleted the voicemail. She's trying to gaslight you into thinking last night didn't happen the way it did. Maybe I overreacted. Hannah, no. His voice was firm. Do not let her rewrite history. You didn't overreact. You finally reacted appropriately to years of mistreatment. Before Hannah could respond, her own phone started ringing from the bedroom. She retrieved it, her heart sinking at the name on the screen. Melissa. Don't answer it, Ethan said from the doorway. But Hannah's finger was already hovering over the accept button. Years of conditioning screamed at her that ignoring her sister was rude, selfish, wrong. I have to. She probably just wants to manipulate you into feeling guilty? Yeah, that's exactly what she wants to do. Ethan crossed his arms. But it's your choice, Hannah answered. Hello? Are you kidding me right now? Melissa's voice was shrill, furious. You ruined my wedding, Hannah. You actually ruined it. Everyone's talking about your dramatic exit instead of my marriage. Do you have any idea how selfish that is? Something inside Hannah snapped. Your wedding went on for 4 more hours after I left, Melissa. I don't think I ruined anything. You embarrassed us. Walking out like that, making a scene with some random guy. His name is Ethan Cross, and he's not random. Hannah stopped, suddenly aware of Ethan watching her. He's someone who actually values me. Oh, please. You've known him, 3 months? And you're already choosing him over your family? Melissa's laugh was cold. That's pathetic, Hannah, even for you. You know what's pathetic? Hannah's voice shook, but not with weakness anymore, with anger. Making your sister create a 10-tier wedding cake for free. Stuffing her in a dress that doesn't fit and excluding her from family photos. Announcing her eviction at your reception like it's entertainment. That's not what happened. That's exactly what happened. I was there, Melissa. I lived it. You're being dramatic. Mom and Dad are downsizing. You knew that. They gave you plenty of notice. 30 days isn't plenty of notice. And announcing it publicly, in front of everyone, was cruel. Hannah walked to the window, looking out at the city below. But you know what? I'm done. Done explaining, done defending, done trying to make you see what you refuse to see. Fine. Melissa's voice turned icy. Don't come crying to us when your little fairy tale falls apart. Don't expect me to be there when he realizes you're not worth the trouble. The words hit like physical blows, designed to land in all Hannah's most vulnerable places. A month ago, they would have worked. Hannah would have apologized, begged forgiveness, made herself small again. Now, she just felt tired. Goodbye, Melissa. She hung up before her sister could respond. Her hands were shaking, but her breathing was steady. Ethan appeared beside her. You okay? I don't know. Ask me again in a few hours. Hannah set her phone down on the coffee table. She's right about one thing, though. I barely know you. And I'm living in your apartment, relying on you for everything. That's not healthy. You're not relying on me. You're accepting help while you get your feet under you. There's a difference. Is there? Hannah turned to face him. Be honest, Ethan. Why are you doing this? Why do you care so much about what happens to me? He was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching hers. You really don't know? Know what? Hannah, I've been half in love with you since the moment you asked about my mother's favorite flowers instead of my budget. He said it simply, like it was fact. Every time you walked into a room, you lit it up. Every conversation we had made me forget about everything else. And watching your family treat you like you were nothing when you're everything, his jaw tightened. I couldn't stand by and watch it anymore. Hannah's heart was pounding. You love me. Half in love, he corrected gently. The other half is waiting for you to choose yourself, to see your own worth. Because as much as I care about you, you need to believe it too. I don't know how. Then let me show you. He took her hands. Let me spend today proving to you that you matter, that your dreams matter, that you deserve to take up space in the world. And how exactly do you plan to do that? A slow smile crossed his face. Do you trust me? Hannah thought about it, really thought about it. She'd known Ethan Cross for 3 months. He was essentially a stranger who'd seen something in her that even she couldn't see. She was standing in his apartment wearing his clothes with no plan and no safety net. And yet, yeah, she said softly, I think I do. Good, then go get dressed. We're going out. 20 minutes later, Hannah sat in Ethan's car wearing the same clothes she'd slept in, her hair pulled into a messy ponytail, no makeup. She felt exposed, vulnerable, and strangely free. Where are we going? She asked as Ethan navigated through downtown traffic. You'll see. They drove for 15 minutes before pulling up to a building Hannah recognized, the Carmichael Gallery, one of the most prestigious art spaces in the city. She'd delivered cakes here before, always through the service entrance, always invisible. Why are we here? Hannah asked as Ethan opened her door. Because you need to see something. He led her inside, past the main gallery space to a private viewing room. A woman in her 50s greeted them, her smile warm. Ethan, right on time. She turned to Hannah. You must be Hannah Whitmore. I'm Rebecca Carmichael. I've been wanting to meet you for months. Hannah blinked. You have? Of course. Ethan's been showing me photos of your work, the sugar sculptures, the hand-painted cakes. What you do is extraordinary. Rebecca gestured to the viewing room. Come, I want to show you something. Inside the room, the walls were covered with photographs. But not just any photographs, professional shots of Hannah's cakes, her sugar flowers, her most intricate designs, each one beautifully lit and displayed like fine art. What is this? Hannah breathed. I've been documenting your work, Ethan said from behind her. Every piece you've created in the last 3 months. I wanted you to see what I see, that what you make isn't just food. It's art. Hannah moved from photo to photo, seeing her creations through new eyes. The champagne tower cake for the Reynolds wedding, the geometric design for Ethan's corporate gala, the botanical masterpiece for his mother's birthday, each one captured in stunning detail. Ethan brought these to me 2 weeks ago, Rebecca said. Asked my professional opinion as a gallery curator. Want to know what I told him? Hannah couldn't speak. She just nodded. I told him you're wasting your talent on weddings and corporate events, that work like this belongs in a gallery, in museums, that you're not a baker, you're an artist who happens to use sugar and flour as your medium. Hannah's voice cracked. I just make cakes. No. Rebecca's voice was kind but firm. You create edible sculptures that people remember for the rest of their lives. You turn celebrations into experiences. That's not just anything. Hannah sank onto a viewing bench, overwhelmed. Why are you showing me this? Ethan sat beside her. Because your family spent your whole life convincing you that what you do doesn't matter. I needed you to see that they're wrong. Objectively, professionally wrong. I was actually hoping to propose something, Rebecca added. A showcase here at the gallery, 3 months from now. We'd feature photographs of your work alongside live demonstrations. Call it Edible Ephemera, exploring the intersection of culinary arts and fine art. It would be a first for the Carmichael, but I think it's time we expanded our definition of art. Hannah stared at her. You want to showcase my work? In your gallery? I want to give you the platform you deserve. Rebecca handed her a business card. Think about it. No pressure. But Ethan's right. What you create is too beautiful to remain invisible. They spent another hour at the gallery, Rebecca explaining her vision for the showcase, Ethan watching Hannah with quiet satisfaction. When they finally left, Hannah felt like she was floating. I can't believe you did that, she said as they walked back to the car. Did what? Saw me. Really saw me. She stopped on the sidewalk, forcing him to face her. My own family looked at my work every day and saw nothing special. You looked at it and saw art. Because it is art, Hannah, and you're an artist. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. When are you going to believe that? I'm working on it. She leaned into his touch despite herself. What's next on this magical mystery tour? Lunch. Someplace you've never been. The restaurant was a small French bistro tucked into a quiet street, the kind of place Hannah had always walked past, assuming it was too expensive, too exclusive, too not for her. Inside, warm lighting and intimate tables created the feeling of being in someone's elegant living room. Ethan? The host greeted him like family. Your usual table? Please, Mark. They were led to a corner booth with a view of the street. Hannah picked up the menu and immediately felt her stomach drop. No prices listed. Relax, Ethan said, reading her expression. My treat. You can't keep paying for everything. I'm not keeping you. I'm treating you to lunch. He flagged down a waiter. Trust me? You keep asking me that. Because your answer keeps changing. He smiled. Today, do you trust me to order for both of us? Hannah set down her menu. Yeah, I do. The food that arrived was art on a plate. Delicate, beautiful, perfectly executed. As they ate, Ethan told her about growing up in the business world, about the pressure to take over his father's company, about his mother's quiet strength that had taught him the difference between power and kindness. She always said the measure of a person isn't what they take, but what they give, Ethan said, twirling wine in his glass. That real strength is knowing when to be gentle. Is that why you showed up last night? Gentleness. No, last night was me being selfish. He met her eyes. I couldn't stand the thought of you hurting alone. That's not selfish, Ethan. Isn't it? I wanted to be the one who saved you. You didn't save me. Hannah set down her fork. You gave me a safe place to save myself. There's a difference. Something shifted in his expression, pride maybe, or recognition. You're stronger than you think. I'm starting to see that. After lunch, Ethan took her to a bookstore. Not the big commercial chain, but a small independent shop filled with worn leather chairs and the smell of old paper. They wandered the aisles together, Hannah pulling books at random, Ethan watching with quiet amusement. What? She asked, catching his smile. You. You're different today. Different how? Lighter. Like you've put down something heavy. Hannah thought about it. He was right. Despite the upheaval, despite the uncertainty, she felt lighter than she had in years. I think I put down the weight of trying to be enough for people who would never think I was. And how does it feel? Terrifying, freeing, both at once. That sounds about right. They bought a stack of books, poetry, fiction, a cookbook that Hannah absolutely didn't need but wanted anyway. Ethan paid before she could protest, adding her purchases to his own pile. You don't have to keep buying me things, Hannah said as they walked back to the car, arms full of book bags. I know. I want to. He loaded everything into the trunk. When was the last time someone bought you something just because they wanted to see you happy? Hannah opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. She couldn't remember. Birthday presents from her family had always come with strings attached, implied obligations. She'd learned early not to want things because wanting led to disappointment. Exactly, Ethan said softly. So let me do this. Let someone care about you without conditions. The sun was setting as they drove back to the apartment, the city bathed in gold light. Hannah watched it all pass by, this life she'd lived in the margins of, and wondered what it would look like to actually participate, to take up space, to matter. Back at the penthouse, Ethan ordered dinner from a Thai restaurant while Hannah curled up on the couch with one of her new books. It felt domestic, comfortable, like they'd been doing this for years instead of hours. Can I ask you something? Hannah said as they ate pad thai straight from the containers. Anything. Why me? You could have anyone, Ethan. Why fall for the invisible girl with the complicated family? He set down his chopsticks, considering his answer carefully. Because you're not invisible. You're just surrounded by people who refuse to look. He shifted to face her fully. Because when I talk to you, I forget about everything else. Because you see people, really see them, and that's rare. Because you're brilliant and talented and kind, and you don't even know it. I'm a mess, Hannah whispered. You're human. And you're finally letting yourself be human instead of perfect. He reached for her hand. That's not a mess. That's courage. It doesn't feel courageous. It never does. Courage usually feels like terror with purpose. They finished dinner in comfortable silence, then moved to the balcony. The city spread out below them, millions of lights representing millions of lives, each one carrying their own weight, their own battles. What happens tomorrow? Hannah asked. Tomorrow, we deal with logistics. Get your stuff from your parents' place, start looking at apartments, figure out the practical side of your new life. Ethan leaned against the railing beside her. But tonight, you just breathe. I don't know how to do this. How to be on my own. You've been on your own for years, Hannah. You just had people around you pretending to be family. He turned to face her. Now you get to build your own family. People who actually see you, who actually care. And you want to be part of that? If you'll let me. Hannah looked at him, really looked at him. This man who'd shown up in the middle of the night, no questions asked, who'd defended her to her mother, who'd shown her own work like it mattered, who'd spent a day proving to her that she deserved to take up space. Why? She asked again. Why do you care so much? Because someone should. He cupped her face gently. And because I want to. Because when I'm with you, everything makes sense. Because you make me want to be better, kinder, more present. I don't know how to let someone in like that. Then we'll figure it out together. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her lips. If you want to. I'm scared. Of me. Of this. Of wanting something good and having it taken away. I'm not going anywhere, Hannah, not unless you ask me to. She kissed him then, closing the distance between them, letting herself want without apology. Ethan responded immediately, one hand sliding into her hair, the other pulling her closer. The kiss was gentle at first, exploratory, then deeper, as Hannah let herself feel everything she'd been holding back. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. Stay, he said quietly. Not just tonight. Stay here while you figure out what's next. Take the time you need. Ethan, I can't just move in. Why not? You need a place. I have space. It's logical. It's not logical. It's... Hannah searched for the word. It's huge. It's a huge step. Then don't think of it as a step. Think of it as a safe place to land while you grow wings. He pulled back to look at her. No pressure, no expectations. Just a room and time and space to figure out who you are when you're not trying to be who they wanted. Hannah looked out at the city again, at all those lights, all those possibilities. Moving in with Ethan was reckless, impulsive, completely unlike her usual careful, measured approach to life, which was exactly why some part of her wanted to say yes. Can I think about it? She asked. Take all the time you need. He kissed her forehead. The offer stands either way. They stayed on the balcony until the night grew cold, talking about everything and nothing. Hannah told him about the bakery, about her dreams of expanding, about the recipes she'd perfected in her head but never had time to execute. Ethan told her about his company, about the pressure to be ruthless in business, about his mother's constant reminder that money means nothing if you lose yourself getting it. She'd like you, Ethan said. My mother, she'd see what I see. Which is? Someone rare, someone real. He stood, offering his hand. Come on, it's late. You need sleep. Why, Hannah let him pull her to her feet. At the guest room door, she hesitated. Thank you, she said. For today. For all of it. Thank me by believing it. By seeing yourself the way I see you. I'm working on it. That's all I ask. He kissed her softly, carefully. Good night, Hannah. Good night. She closed the door and leaned against it, her heart racing. Through the wood, she heard Ethan's footsteps retreating down the hall. Heard his own door close. Heard the apartment settle into silence. Hannah changed into his t-shirt again, climbed into the unfamiliar bed, and stared at the ceiling. 24 hours ago, she'd been sitting on marble steps in a dress that didn't fit, invisible at her own sister's wedding. Now she was here, in a penthouse apartment, being seen by someone who asked nothing in return. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Another message from her mother. Hannah, this is getting ridiculous. Call me so we can talk like adults. Hannah stared at the screen, her thumb hovering over the delete button. Part of her, the part trained by 28 years of conditioning, wanted to call, to explain, to smooth things over and make everyone comfortable again. But another part, the part that was growing stronger by the hour, knew the truth. Calling wouldn't fix anything. It would just reset the pattern, put her back in the box she'd finally climbed out of. She deleted the message without responding. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, packing up her life, facing her parents, figuring out where to go from here. But tonight, wrapped in soft sheets in a safe place, Hannah let herself imagine a different kind of future. One where she wasn't constantly shrinking to fit other people's spaces. One where she was seen, valued, chosen. One where she finally chose herself. She fell asleep with her phone on silent, Ethan's t-shirt soft against her skin, and for the first time in recent memory, her dreams were light. The next morning arrived with the kind of clarity that follows difficult decisions. Hannah stood in Ethan's kitchen, coffee in hand, staring at her phone like it might bite. She had 17 missed calls, 12 from her mother, 3 from Melissa, 2 from her father. The voicemails had progressed from sweet concern to thinly veiled threats. You can't avoid them forever, Ethan said, appearing beside her in a business suit that made him look every inch the CEO he was. I can try, or you can face them on your terms. He poured his own coffee, checking his watch. I have meetings until 2, but I can push them if you need backup. No. Hannah set down her phone with finality. You're right, I need to do this myself. Not yourself, for yourself. There's a difference. He kissed her forehead, brief and reassuring. Call Maya. Get reinforcements. Don't go into that house alone. After he left, Hannah sat on the balcony and dialed her assistant's number. Maya answered on the first ring. Oh, thank God, I've been losing my mind. Are you okay? What happened? Your mom called the bakery yesterday, asking if I knew where you were, and she sounded... Maya, breathe. Right, breathing. Now talk. Hannah told her everything, the wedding, the eviction announcement, walking out, Ethan's arrival. Maya listened in increasingly stunned silence. Holy hell, Maya finally said. You actually did it. You actually chose yourself. Feels more like I fell off a cliff and I'm still waiting to hit bottom. Or maybe you're learning to fly. Maya's voice turned practical. What do you need? Help packing. I have to get my stuff out of their garage before they change the locks or burn it or whatever they're planning. I'm there. When? Today. This morning. Before I lose my nerve. They met at the bakery first. Hannah needed to see her domain to remind herself that she'd built something real, something that existed independent of her family's approval. The kitchen alchemist smelled like vanilla and butter and home. I've been keeping things running, Maya said, leading her through to the workspace. The Morrison wedding cake is ready for Saturday delivery. The Castellano anniversary order is prepped. And we got 3 new inquiries yesterday. Hannah ran her hand along the familiar steel counter. Thank you for holding down the fort. That's what you pay me for. Maya hesitated. But boss, we need to talk about the Whitmore account. There is no Whitmore account anymore? Exactly. Your mom called yesterday demanding the final invoice for Melissa's cake, said she wanted an itemized breakdown of costs. Hannah laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Of course she did. Suddenly, it's not a gift anymore. What do you want me to tell her? For a moment, Hannah imagined it, sending an invoice for 40 hours of labor, premium materials, her actual worth, watching her mother's face when she saw what that cake had really cost. But petty satisfaction wouldn't change anything. Tell her the cake was my wedding gift, as agreed. There's no invoice because there was no charge. Hannah met Maya's eyes. I won't give them ammunition to paint me as the villain. You're a better person than me. Or a stupider one. Jury's still out. They drove to her parents' house in Maya's car, arriving at 10 in the morning. The converted garage that had been Hannah's home for 6 years sat at the back of the property, accessible through a side gate. Hannah had her own key. Game plan? Maya asked as they pulled up. Get in, pack fast, get out. Avoid my parents if possible. And if it's not possible? Then you're my witness to whatever happens. The garage apartment was exactly as she'd left it, small but tidy. Everything in its place because Hannah had learned early that taking up too much space was dangerous. Her clothes hung in a closet too narrow for hangers. Her books lined makeshift shelves. Her personal baking equipment crowded the tiny kitchenette. "This is where you've been living?" Maya stared around in dismay. "Hannah, this is barely bigger than my bathroom. It was cheap. It's a converted garage. There's not even a real bedroom, just that alcove with a curtain." Maya pulled out garbage bags from the pack she'd brought. "Okay, let's get you out of here." They worked quickly, systematically. Clothes into bags, books into boxes Maya had grabbed from the bakery, kitchen equipment wrapped in towels. Hannah moved through it mechanically, trying not to think about how easily 6 years of life fit into a dozen containers. She was packing her bathroom supplies when she heard the side gate open. Her mother's heels clicked across concrete. "I knew you'd come slinking back eventually." Hannah straightened slowly, meeting Patricia's cold gaze through the open door. Her mother looked immaculate as always, pressed linen pants, silk blouse, every hair in place. The veneer of perfection that Hannah had spent her life trying and failing to emulate. "I'm not slinking. I'm packing." Hannah kept her voice level. "You gave me 30 days. I'm just getting started early." "Don't be dramatic. Your father and I talked it over, and we're willing to let you stay if you apologize." "Apologize for what?" "For embarrassing us at Melissa's wedding, for walking out like a petulant child, for bringing that man to humiliate me in front of our guests." Patricia stepped into the small space, and suddenly it felt even smaller. "Apologize sincerely, and we can forget this whole unfortunate incident." Hannah looked at her mother. Really looked at her. At the woman who had spent 28 years making her feel insufficient, who had criticized every pound, every choice, every dream, who had announced her eviction like it was nothing and now expected gratitude for a conditional reprieve. "No," Hannah said quietly. "Excuse me?" "I said no. I'm not apologizing. I didn't do anything wrong." Patricia's expression hardened. You made a scene when you announced my eviction at a wedding reception. I just responded to it. We were sharing family news. You were humiliating me. There's a difference." Hannah zipped up the toiletry bag in her hands. "And I'm done pretending there isn't." "This is about that man, isn't it?" Patricia's voice dripped disdain. "Ethan Cross. You think because he has money, he can replace your family? He doesn't need to replace you. He just needs to treat me like I matter." Hannah moved past her mother to the main room where Maya was studiously pretending not to listen. "Which he does. Without conditions. Without keeping score." "How naive." Patricia followed her. "Men like that don't stay with girls like you, Hannah. He'll get bored, move on to someone prettier, thinner, more successful. And where will you be then?" The words were designed to wound, aimed at every insecurity Patricia had spent years cultivating. A month ago, they would have worked. Hannah would have believed them, internalized them, let them confirm every fear. Now she just felt tired. "If that happens, I'll deal with it." Hannah grabbed another box. "But at least I'll have tried. At least I'll have chosen to be happy instead of choosing to be safe and miserable." "You think you're happy? Living in some man's apartment dependent on his charity?" "I think I'm happier than I've been in years. I think I'm finally breathing." Hannah faced her mother directly. "And I think the fact that that bothers you says everything about our relationship." Patricia's carefully composed expression cracked slightly. "After everything we've done for you." "Like what, Mom? Specifically, what have you done for me?" Hannah's voice remained calm, but steel ran through it. "You let me rent your garage for $800 a month. You mocked my career. You demanded free labor disguised as family obligation. You excluded me from photos at my own sister's wedding. So please, tell me, what exactly have you done for me that I should be grateful for?" "We raised you, fed you, clothed you. That's called basic parenting. That's the minimum requirement, not a favor I owe you for." Maya made a small sound that might have been approval. Patricia's face flushed red. "You ungrateful little—" "I'm not ungrateful." Hannah cut her off. "I'm just done. Done trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Done shrinking myself to fit spaces you deliberately made too small. Done apologizing for taking up room in my own family. If you walk out that door with your things, don't expect to come back. I know. Hannah picked up a box, handed another to Maya. I'm counting on it. They loaded Maya's car in silence, Patricia watching from the doorway with an expression that mixed fury and disbelief. On their third trip, Hannah's father appeared, still in his golf clothes. What's all this? Richard asked, though his tone suggested he knew exactly what it was. I'm moving out early, Hannah said. Seemed easier than dragging it out for 30 days. Patricia, what's going on? He looked to his wife for explanation, as he always did. Your daughter is having a tantrum, Patricia said coldly. Apparently we're terrible parents because we asked her to find her own place. You didn't ask. You announced. Hannah loaded another box. At Melissa's wedding, in front of 200 people. Richard's expression flickered. Discomfort, maybe, or the ghost of shame. That was poorly timed. Your mother gets excited, says things without thinking. Dad, she thinks everything. Every word, every slight. Hannah faced him. You both do. It's calculated. It's always been calculated. That's not fair. Isn't it? When's the last time either of you told me you were proud of me? When's the last time you came to the bakery, saw what I built, and acknowledged it was real? Hannah's voice stayed steady. I don't need an answer. I already know. Never. Because in your eyes, I've never been enough. Hannah, you're being oversensitive. No, I'm being honest. Finally. She grabbed the last box from inside. And the truth is, I don't need you to see my worth anymore. I see it. Other people see it. That's enough. Where will you even go? Patricia demanded. Back to that man's apartment, playing house until he gets tired of you? Maybe. Or maybe I'll find my own place, build my own life, surround myself with people who actually want me around. Hannah opened Maya's trunk, fitting the final box inside. Either way, it's not your concern anymore. You're making a mistake, Richard said, and for a moment he almost sounded sad. Family is everything, Hannah. You'll regret this. Hannah looked at her parents, these people who had given her life but made her feel small, who had provided a roof but made it conditional, who had called themselves family but never acted like it. The only thing I regret, she said quietly, is not doing this sooner. She got in Maya's car without looking back. As they pulled away, Hannah caught a glimpse of her parents in the side mirror, standing in their perfect driveway, in front of their perfect house, looking small and confused and somehow diminished. Holy shit, Maya breathed once they'd turned the corner. You actually did it. You actually stood up to them. Hannah's hands were shaking in her lap. I think I'm going to throw up. That's adrenaline. Breathe through it. Maya glanced at her. How do you feel? Terrified, exhilarated, like I just jumped off a building and I'm not sure if I'm flying or falling. For what it's worth, I think you're flying. Maya turned toward downtown. Where to? Ethan's place? Hannah pulled out her phone, typed a quick message. Yeah, he said I could store things there while I figure out next steps. Is moving in with him a next step you're considering? Maybe. I don't know. Is that crazy? Crazier than living in your parents' garage for 6 years while they treated you like garbage? No. Maya navigated through traffic. But Hannah, real talk, do you love him? Or do you love that he sees you? The question hit hard because it was fair. Hannah thought about Ethan, the way he looked at her, the way he listened, the way he'd shown up without hesitation. Was she in love with him, or in love with being valued? I don't know yet, she admitted, but I want to find out. And I can't do that while I'm drowning in survival mode. Fair enough. Just promise me you're choosing him, not running to him. I promise. Hannah looked out at the city passing by. I'm choosing me. He just happens to be part of that choice. They unloaded everything at Ethan's building, the doorman helping them cart boxes to the private elevator. Hannah directed Maya to put everything in the guest room, trying not to think about how this temporary solution was starting to feel permanent. Want me to stay? Maya asked after the last box was deposited. Help you unpack? No, thank you, but I need to sit with this for a bit. Hannah hugged her. Thank you for being there today, for witnessing it. That's what friends do. Maya pulled back, studying her face. You look different. Different how? Taller, like you're standing up straight for the first time. After Maya left, Hannah stood in the middle of the guest room surrounded by boxes and bags containing her entire life. It wasn't much. Certainly not enough to fill 6 years, but it was hers, untethered from conditions and expectations. Her phone buzzed. Ethan. How did it go? Hannah sat on the floor, leaning against the bed. I told them I was done, packed everything, left. How do you feel? Like I just burned down my whole life. Or like you just cleared space for something better. A pause. I'm canceling my afternoon meetings. Be home in 20. Ethan, you don't have to. I know. I want to. See you soon. He arrived 18 minutes later, still in his suit, carrying takeout bags from the Thai place. Figured you might not feel like cooking, he said, setting everything on the counter. Hannah hadn't realized she was hungry until the smell hit her. You're too good at this. At what? Knowing what I need before I do. That's because I pay attention. He pulled her into a hug, and Hannah let herself sink into it. Tell me what happened. So she did. Every detail, every confrontation, every word exchanged. Ethan listened without interrupting, his hand stroking her hair, his presence solid and reassuring. I'm proud of you, he said when she finished. For what? Cutting off my family? For choosing yourself. For standing up to people who've spent your whole life making you small. He pulled back to look at her. That takes incredible courage. It doesn't feel courageous, it feels selfish. Choosing yourself is never selfish, Hannah. It's survival. He led her to the couch, handed her a container of pad thai. Eat. Then we'll talk about next steps. They ate in comfortable silence, the city sprawling below them through floor-to-ceiling windows. Hannah felt hollowed out, emptied of something she'd carried so long she'd forgotten it was there. Can I ask you something? She said finally. Always? Why haven't you asked me to move in officially? You keep saying I can stay, but you haven't actually asked. Ethan set down his food, considering his words carefully. Because I don't want you to say yes out of necessity. When you move in here, if you move in here, I want it to be because you choose to, not because you have nowhere else to go. That's very noble. It's self-preservation. He smiled slightly. I'm half in love with you, remember? The other half is waiting for you to choose me, not need me. And if I can't tell the difference right now, then we wait until you can. He took her hand. Hannah, I want you here. I want to wake up to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night. I want to build something real with you, but not if it's born from desperation. Not if you're settling for me because I'm safe. You think I'm settling? I think you're in crisis mode. And people in crisis make decisions based on survival, not desire. He squeezed her hand. So here's what I'm proposing. Stay here, in the guest room, for as long as you need. No pressure, no expectations. Just time and space to figure out who Hannah Whitmore is when she's not trying to please people who can't be pleased. And then? Then, when you know yourself again, when you've built your own foundation, you can decide if you want me to be part of your life. Not because I rescued you, because you choose me. Hannah felt tears prick her eyes. What if figuring myself out takes a long time? Then it takes a long time. I'm not going anywhere. Why? Why are you so patient with me? Because you're worth waiting for. He brushed a tear from her cheek. And because I've spent my whole life around people who want me for what I have. You want me for who I am. That's worth any amount of waiting. She kissed him then, soft and grateful and full of something she couldn't quite name yet. Ethan responded gently, his hands cradling her face like she was something precious. Thank you, Hannah whispered against his lips. For what? For seeing me, for being patient, for not trying to fix me. You don't need fixing. You just need space to grow. They spent the evening unpacking Hannah's things, Ethan helping her organize the guest room into something that felt like home. He hung her clothes in the closet, arranged her books on built-in shelves, made space in the bathroom for her toiletries. This feels permanent, Hannah said, watching him work. It can be as permanent or temporary as you want. This is your space for as long as you need it. What about when you have other guests? I'll tell them the room is occupied. He smiled. Hannah, stop looking for reasons why you don't belong here. You belong here because I want you here. Full stop. That night, Lying in the guest bed that was starting to feel familiar, Hannah stared at the ceiling and tried to process everything that had happened in 3 days. She'd walked out on her family, confronted her parents, packed up her life. And somehow, instead of feeling lost, she felt found. Her phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. "Mom told me what you said to them. I hope you're happy. You've officially destroyed this family." Hannah stared at the message for a long moment. The old Hannah would have called immediately, apologizing, begging forgiveness, trying to fix what she'd allegedly broken. The new Hannah, the one who was learning to stand up straight, saw the message for what it was. Manipulation. An attempt to make her responsible for their dysfunction. She deleted it without responding. Another text came through, this time from a number she didn't recognize. "Hannah, this is Rebecca Carmichael. I hope it's okay that Ethan gave me your number. I wanted to follow up on the gallery showcase proposal. Would you be available to meet this week to discuss details? I really believe we could create something special together." Hannah read the message 3 times, her heart pounding. A gallery showcase. Her work, recognized as art, a platform she'd never imagined having, offered without conditions or strings. She typed back, "Yes, I'd love to discuss it. Thank you for thinking of me." The response came within minutes. "Thank you for being brilliant. How's Thursday at 2 p.m.? Perfect. Hannah set down her phone and let herself smile. In the span of 3 days, she'd lost her family and gained possibility. She'd walked away from people who made her small and toward people who saw her worth. She thought about what Ethan had said, that she needed to build her own foundation before deciding if she wanted him to be part of her life. It was terrifying and freeing at once. For 28 years, she'd defined herself by other people's standards. Now she had the chance to define herself by her own. The question was, who was Hannah Whitmore when she wasn't trying to be enough for people who would never think she was? She fell asleep thinking about sugar flowers and gallery walls, about businesses built on passion instead of approval, about a life where she took up space without apologizing for it. And for the first time in her memory, her dreams were hers alone. The next morning, Hannah woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. She found Ethan in the kitchen, already dressed for work, reading something on his tablet. "Morning," he said, pouring her a mug. "Sleep okay?" "Better than I expected." Hannah accepted the coffee gratefully. "What's that?" "Article about the restaurant industry. There's a commercial kitchen space opening up downtown, bigger than what you have now, better location." He turned the tablet to show her. "Thought you might be interested." Hannah scanned the listing. The space was beautiful, professional-grade equipment, plenty of room, positioned perfectly between the business district and the arts quarter. It was also expensive. "I can't afford this," she said. "Not yet. But if the gallery showcase goes well, if you expand your client base..." Ethan shrugged. "I'm not saying buy it tomorrow. I'm saying keep it in mind as possibility. You're trying to help me build my own foundation. I'm trying to show you what's possible when you're not held back by people who want you to stay small." He checked his watch. "I have to go. Meetings all day, but I'll be home by 7. Want to do dinner? Here or out? Wherever you want." After he left, Hannah sat at the kitchen island with her coffee and her phone and a growing sense of purpose. She had a meeting with Rebecca Carmichael on Thursday. She had a bakery to run. She had a life to build. She opened her email and started drafting a message to Rebecca, outlining ideas for the showcase. Edible art installations, live demonstrations of sugar work, photographs showing the progression from raw ingredients to finished masterpieces. Her fingers flew across the keys, ideas pouring out faster than she could type them. This was who she was when she wasn't being diminished. Creative, ambitious, full of vision. She was so absorbed in planning that she didn't hear the knock on the door until it came again, louder. Hannah checked the security screen, her stomach dropping at the face staring back at her. Melissa. For a long moment, Hannah considered not answering, but hiding wouldn't solve anything. She opened the door. Her sister looked perfect as always. Designer dress, flawless makeup, every hair in place. But her eyes were hard. "Nice place," Melissa said, pushing past Hannah into the apartment. "Didn't take you long to land on your feet." "What do you want, Melissa?" "To understand what the hell you're doing. Mom and Dad are devastated. Do you even care?" "They're devastated that I finally stood up to them. There's a difference." Melissa spun to face her. "You stood up to them? You humiliated them. You made a scene at my wedding, brought some man to attack Mom in public, and now you're living in his penthouse like you're something special. I am something special, Hannah said quietly. I just forgot that for a while. You're delusional. Melissa's voice dripped venom. You think Ethan Cross actually cares about you? You think this, she gestured around the apartment, is real? He's using you, Hannah. Rich men don't date chubby bakers from nowhere. They date models and socialites. You're a novelty, a project. And when he gets bored, then I'll deal with it. Hannah cut her off. But at least I'll have tried. At least I'll know what it feels like to be chosen. Chosen? Melissa laughed cruelly. You were always chosen. You were part of our family. You had a place. And you threw it away for what? Some fantasy that you matter? I do matter. Based on what? Your little bakery? Your sugar flowers? Melissa's eyes glittered. You're not special, Hannah. You're ordinary. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you can come home and apologize, and we can all move past this. Hannah looked at her sister. This woman she'd spent her whole life envying, trying to emulate, desperately seeking approval from. And she saw clearly for the first time that Melissa's cruelty came from fear. Fear that if Hannah was allowed to be special, to be seen, to matter, it would somehow diminish Melissa's own worth. No, Hannah said simply. No what? No to all of it. I'm not coming home. I'm not apologizing. I'm not shrinking back down to make you comfortable. Hannah moved to the door, opened it. And I think you should leave. You can't just... I can. This is Ethan's home, and he asked me to stay. You're not welcome here. Melissa's face flushed red. You're going to regret this. When he leaves you, when your bakery fails, when you have nothing and no one, don't come crying to us. I won't. I promise. Hannah held the door open. Goodbye, Melissa. Her sister stared at her for a long moment, something like confusion crossing her perfect features, like she couldn't quite reconcile this Hannah, calm, certain, unmoved, with the sister she'd always known. You've changed, Melissa said finally. Yeah, I have. After Melissa left, Hannah leaned against the closed door and let out a shaky breath. Her hands were trembling, her heart racing, but underneath the adrenaline was something solid, something sure. She'd stood her ground, again, and it was getting easier each time. Hannah spent the rest of the morning at the bakery, throwing herself into work with a focus she hadn't felt in months. Without the constant weight of her family's expectations pressing down on her, she felt lighter, sharper, more present. Maya noticed immediately. You're different today, her assistant said, watching Hannah pipe intricate lace patterns onto a wedding cake tier with steady hands. Different how? Less apologetic, like you're taking up your actual space instead of trying to fit in the corner. Maya adjusted the temperature on one of the ovens. It's good. You should have told them off years ago. I wasn't ready years ago. And now? Hannah set down her piping bag, examining her work with a critical eye. The lace pattern was flawless, delicate but strong, exactly what she'd envisioned. Now I'm ready to build something that's actually mine. Her phone buzzed with a message from Ethan. Lunch? There's someone I want you to meet. Hannah glanced at the clock. Nearly 1. She'd been working for 4 hours straight without noticing. Give me 30 minutes. Perfect. Sending a car. I can drive myself. I know. Humor me. The car arrived exactly 30 minutes later, sleek and black, with a driver who opened the door for her like she was someone important. Hannah slid into the back seat, feeling slightly ridiculous in her work clothes, jeans and a Kitchen Alchemist t-shirt dusted with flour. They pulled up to a restaurant Hannah recognized from food magazines, Marchand's, the kind of place that required reservations weeks in advance and had a Michelin star. She definitely didn't belong here in flour-dusted jeans. But Ethan was waiting at the entrance, and his face lit up when he saw her like she was exactly what he'd been hoping for. You didn't tell me we were going somewhere fancy, Hannah said, gesturing at her outfit. You look perfect. He kissed her cheek, took her hand. Besides, the person we're meeting doesn't care about fancy. He led her inside to a private corner table where an elegant woman in her 60s sat reading a menu. She looked up as they approached, and Hannah recognized her immediately from the photos Ethan had shown her months ago. His mother. Mom, this is Hannah Whitmore. Ethan's hand was warm and steady on Hannah's back. Hannah, my mother, Catherine Cross. Catherine stood with a grace that suggested decades of practice, extending her hand with a genuine smile. Finally, Ethan's been talking about you for months. I was beginning to think he was hiding you. Or hiding me from you, Ethan said dryly. Hannah, fair warning, my mother has no filter. I prefer to think of it as refreshing honesty. Catherine gestured for them to sit. Hannah, my son tells me you created that extraordinary orchid cake for my birthday. I've been wanting to thank you personally ever since. It was my pleasure, Hannah said, settling into her chair and trying not to feel overwhelmed. Your son gave me such a beautiful description of you that the design practically created itself. He has a gift for seeing people clearly, usually. Catherine's eyes sparkled with mischief as she glanced at Ethan, though in your case, I think his vision might be slightly clouded by other factors. Mom, what? I'm not allowed to notice when my son is clearly smitten? Catherine turned back to Hannah. He's been different these past few months, lighter, more present. I assume that's your doing. Hannah felt her cheeks warm. I think that might be overstating my influence. I doubt it. Ethan spent the last decade building walls. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. They ordered lunch, and Catherine expertly steered the conversation through comfortable topics. Hannah's bakery, Catherine's botanical garden, Ethan's increasingly transparent attempts to change the subject whenever his mother got too personal. It should have been awkward, meeting his mother under these circumstances. Instead, it felt strangely natural. So, Catherine said over dessert, Ethan tells me you've had some family difficulties recently. Hannah shot Ethan a look. He had the grace to look slightly sheepish. I mentioned you might be going through a transition, he admitted. Not details, just that you were navigating some changes. That's a diplomatic way of putting it. Hannah stirred her coffee. I recently cut ties with my family. We had very different ideas about what family should look like. Catherine studied her with those same dark eyes as her son, penetrating but kind. That must have taken tremendous courage. Or tremendous selfishness, depending on who you ask. Nonsense. Choosing yourself is never selfish. It's survival. Catherine set down her fork. Can I tell you something, Hannah? Woman to woman. Not potential future mother-in-law to potential future daughter-in-law. Mom, hush, Ethan. The adults are talking. Catherine's eyes never left Hannah's. Family isn't defined by blood or obligation. It's defined by who shows up for you, who sees your worth without you having to prove it, who celebrates your success instead of diminishing it. Hannah felt her throat tighten. That's a lovely idea, but you've never experienced it, so it feels impossible. Catherine reached across the table, squeezed Hannah's hand briefly. I understand. I grew up with parents who thought love was something you earned through perfection. It took me years to learn that real love isn't conditional. How did you learn it? I married a man who loved me exactly as I was. Then I had children who I chose to love the same way. She glanced at Ethan with unmistakable affection. Breaking cycles is hard, but it's possible, and you're already doing it. I'm not doing anything. I'm just trying to survive. Survival is doing something, especially when staying would have been easier. Catherine signaled for the check. Hannah, I'm going to give you some unsolicited advice. Are you ready? Do I have a choice? Not really. Here it is. Stop waiting for permission to take up space. Your family trained you to be small. You're not small. You're extraordinary. Start acting like it. The words landed like a benediction, a permission Hannah hadn't known she needed. She blinked back unexpected tears. Thank you, she managed. Don't thank me. Prove me right. Catherine stood, kissed Ethan's cheek. I have a garden club meeting. You two stay, finish your coffee. Hannah, I hope we'll see each other again soon, preferably at family dinner next Sunday. Ethan will text you details. She swept out with the same elegant confidence she'd arrived with, leaving Hannah slightly dazed. I'm sorry, Ethan said once his mother was gone. She can be a lot. She's wonderful. Hannah wiped her eyes. Did she just invite me to family dinner? Apparently, you don't have to go if it's too soon. I want to. The words surprised Hannah, even as she said them. Is that crazy? I just escaped one family and I'm already trying to join another? You're not trying to join anything. You're accepting an invitation. There's a difference. Ethan took her hand across the table. My family's not perfect. My brother can be intense, my sister asks too many questions, and family dinners usually involve at least one argument about politics or business. But they're real. They show up. And my mother's right. They'll see your worth without you having to prove it. I don't know how to do that. Be part of a family that actually wants me there. Then we'll figure it out together. He raised her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles. One dinner at a time. That afternoon, Hannah met with Rebecca Carmichael at the gallery. Rebecca had transformed the private viewing room into a workspace, sketches and photographs covering every surface. I've been thinking about this nonstop since Ethan first showed me your work, Rebecca said, spreading out concept drawings. I see 3 rooms, the first showcasing photographs of your completed pieces, the wedding cakes, the sculptures, the intricate sugar work. The second room features a live workspace where you demonstrate techniques throughout the show's run. And the third, she pulled out a larger sketch, installation pieces. Sugar sculptures designed specifically for gallery viewing, not consumption, art for art's sake. Hannah stared at the drawings, her mind racing. This is incredible. But Rebecca, I've never done installation work. I've never created something not meant to be eaten. Then this is your chance to try. No deadlines, no clients, no one telling you what they want. Just you, your vision, and complete creative freedom. Rebecca's eyes gleamed with excitement. What would you create if you knew it would never be destroyed? If it could exist permanently? The question opened something in Hannah's chest. All her life, she'd created beautiful things knowing they'd be consumed, destroyed, forgotten within days. What would she make if it could last? I'd create something about transformation, Hannah said slowly. About breaking free from expectations. About becoming. Perfect. Start sketching. We have 3 months before the show opens. That's enough time to create something extraordinary. They spent 2 hours planning, Hannah's initial hesitation dissolving into genuine excitement. Rebecca understood art in a way that made Hannah feel seen, valued, taken seriously as an artist rather than just a baker. One more thing, Rebecca said as Hannah was leaving. The show will generate publicity, press, interviews, social media attention. Are you prepared for that? I think so. Why? Because when people Google you, they'll find your work. They'll also probably find your family. Small town girl makes good, that kind of story. Rebecca's expression turned careful. I'm not trying to scare you, just prepare you. Art shows attract attention, and attention brings scrutiny. Hannah thought about her parents, about Melissa, about the perfect family image they'd cultivated so carefully. Let them find out. I'm not hiding anymore. Good. That's the spirit we need. Rebecca walked her to the door. Hannah, you're about to step into a spotlight. Make sure you're ready for what comes with it. Driving back to Ethan's apartment, when had she started thinking of it that way? Hannah felt the weight of possibilities settling over her. A gallery show, family dinners with people who actually wanted her there, a relationship with a man who saw her worth without conditions. It was terrifying and exhilarating at once. She found Ethan on the balcony when she got home, tie loosened, jacket discarded, staring out at the city with a whiskey in hand. Rough day? She asked, sliding the door open. Long day. How was the meeting with Rebecca? Hannah moved to stand beside him, accepting the glass when he offered it. Inspiring. Overwhelming. She wants me to create installation pieces, sugar sculptures that aren't meant to be eaten. What are you thinking? That I have no idea how to do that, and that I can't wait to try. She took a sip of whiskey, felt it burn pleasantly down her throat. Your mother invited me to family dinner. I know, she texted me 17 times about it. Ethan smiled. Are you okay with that? I think so. It's just strange. A week ago I had a family that didn't want me. Now I'm being invited into one that does. You're not replacing one with the other, Hannah. You're just allowing yourself to be part of something healthier. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the city. Hannah felt the warmth of the whiskey, the solid presence of Ethan beside her, the possibility of the future stretching out like an open road. Can I ask you something? She said finally. Always. When you said you were half in love with me, when does the other half happen? Ethan turned to face her fully, setting down his glass. When you choose me, when you're standing on your own foundation, not needing me for stability, and you look at me and decide I'm what you want anyway. That's a lot of pressure. It's not pressure, it's patience. He cupped her face gently. Hannah, I could tell you I love you right now. It would be true. But I want you to hear it when you believe you deserve it. When you're not questioning whether I'm just saying it because you're vulnerable. What if I never feel that secure? Then I'll keep proving it until you do. He kissed her forehead. I'm not going anywhere. Take all the time you need. That night, Hannah lay in the guest bed staring at the ceiling and thinking about foundations, about building something solid beneath her feet, about the difference between needing someone and choosing them. Her phone buzzed with an email from an unfamiliar address. She almost deleted it, assuming spam, but something made her open it. The subject line read, "Saw your sister's wedding cake." The email was from a wedding planner named Victoria Chen. Ms. Whitmore, I attended Melissa Whitmore's wedding last weekend and was absolutely blown away by the cake. The detail work was extraordinary, easily the most beautiful wedding cake I've seen in 15 years in this industry. I have 3 clients who would be perfect fits for your aesthetic. Would you be interested in discussing potential collaboration? Also, if you have any availability for consultations in the next month, I'd love to set up meetings. Best regards, Victoria. Hannah read it twice, then 3 times. Someone had seen her work, really seen it, and reached out. Not because of family obligation, not because of Ethan's connections, but because the work itself had spoken to them. She responded immediately. Victoria, I'd be very interested in discussing collaboration. Let me know your availability and we can set up a meeting. Thank you for reaching out. Hannah. The response came within minutes. Fantastic. Are you free tomorrow at 3 p.m.? I can come to your bakery. Also, I should mention, I showed photos of the cake to several colleagues. You might be getting a few more emails. Your work is exceptional. Hannah set down her phone, her heart racing. This was how it started. Not with begging for recognition, not with proving herself to people who'd never value her work, but with creating something beautiful and letting it speak for itself. She fell asleep with a smile on her face and possibility humming in her veins. The next day brought 2 more emails from wedding planners and 1 from a corporate event coordinator. Hannah spent the morning responding to inquiries, setting up consultations, feeling like her business was suddenly expanding faster than she could process. This is insane, Maya said, reading over Hannah's shoulder. That's 7 new potential clients in 24 hours, all because people saw Melissa's cake. Ironic, isn't it? The cake I made for free is generating more business than any paid work I've ever done. The universe has a sense of humor. Maya grinned. You ready for the Victoria Chen meeting? Victoria arrived at 3 precisely, immaculately dressed and carrying a leather portfolio. She spent 10 minutes touring the bakery, examining Hannah's workspace with the eye of someone who understood quality. This is good, Victoria said finally. Small but efficient, professional-grade equipment. You take your work seriously. It's my life's work, Hannah said simply. I can tell. Victoria opened her portfolio. I want to be direct with you, Hannah. I represent high-end clients, people with significant budgets who want showstopper events. Your work is exactly what they're looking for, but I need to know you can handle the pressure. These clients are demanding, detail-oriented, sometimes difficult. I can handle difficult. Can you? Because I pulled up some information about you, found out that cake from the wedding was for your sister, that you're estranged from your family. Victoria's expression was neutral, but assessing. I need to know that personal drama won't interfere with professional commitments. Hannah felt a flash of anger, but underneath it was something steadier. My family situation is complicated, but it won't affect my work. In fact, removing toxic people from my life has made me a better artist, more focused, more present. Good answer. Victoria smiled for the first time. Here's what I'm proposing. Trial basis for 3 months. I'll send you 3 clients with specific needs. If the work meets my standards and theirs, we establish a formal partnership. I become your exclusive event coordinator for high-end weddings and corporate events. You get a steady stream of premium clients. Everyone wins. What's the catch? The catch is that my reputation is attached to your work. If you fail, I fail. So I need to know you're serious about this, that you're building a sustainable business, not just a hobby. This has never been a hobby. Hannah met Victoria's eyes steadily. This is who I am, what I do, and I'm ready to take it to the next level. Then we have a deal. Victoria extended her hand. I'll send over the first client brief by end of week. Wedding in 6 weeks, budget of $50,000, bride who wants something ethereal and unforgettable. Think you can handle that? Hannah shook her hand firmly. Absolutely. After Victoria left, Maya let out a low whistle. $50,000 budget? Hannah, that's more than our entire quarterly revenue. I know. Hannah felt slightly dizzy. We're going to need help. Can you start looking for another assistant? Someone with pastry experience who can handle detailed work. Already on it. Maya pulled out her phone. This is really happening, isn't it? You're actually building something huge. We're building something huge, Hannah corrected. I can't do this without you. Damn right you can't. Maya grinned. Okay, boss. Let's make you a household name. That evening, Hannah worked late at the bakery, sketching designs for the gallery installation pieces. She was so absorbed that she didn't hear Ethan arrive until he spoke. Maya let me in, said you've been here for 8 hours straight. Hannah looked up, surprised to find it dark outside. I lost track of time. Show me what you're working on. She spread out her sketches, elaborate sugar sculptures depicting transformation. A chrysalis breaking open to reveal delicate wings, chains dissolving into flowers. A figure emerging from shadow into light. Ethan studied them in silence, his expression unreadable. Finally, he looked at her with something like awe. These are incredible, Hannah, raw and beautiful and brave. They're just sketches. They're your story, breaking free from what held you back, becoming who you were always meant to be. He set down the sketches carefully. Can I tell you something? Anything. Watching you step into your power these past few days has been extraordinary. You're not hiding anymore, not apologizing for your talent. You're claiming space like you always should have. Hannah felt tears prick her eyes. I'm terrified I'll mess it up, that I'll fail and prove everyone right. Everyone who? Your family? Ethan pulled her into his arms. Their opinion stopped mattering the moment you walked away. The only person you need to prove anything to is yourself. What if I'm not good enough? You are. You've always been. You just needed to believe it. He pulled back to look at her. Hannah, you have a gallery show in 3 months. You have high-end clients lining up. You have people who see your worth without you having to beg for it. That's not luck. That's talent and hard work finally being recognized. She kissed him then, pouring all her gratitude and fear and hope into it. Ethan responded with matching intensity, his hands tangling in her hair, pulling her closer. Come home, he murmured against her lips. I should finish. It can wait. You've been working for 8 hours. Come home. Eat. Rest. Let me take care of you. The word home settled into Hannah's chest like an anchor. Not the guest room in his apartment. Home. The place where someone cared if she ate or rested or pushed herself too hard. Okay, she whispered. Take me home. They drove through the city with Hannah's head resting against the window, exhaustion finally catching up with her. Ethan's hand found hers in the darkness, steady and sure. Sunday dinner? He said casually. Still okay with going? Yeah, I want to meet your family, your real family. They're gonna love you. You don't know that. I do. Because anyone who actually knows you loves you. He squeezed her hand. That's not bias. That's fact. Back at the apartment, Ethan ordered dinner while Hannah showered, washing away flour dust and exhaustion. When she emerged, he'd set up plates on the balcony, candles flickering in the warm night air. You didn't have to do all this, Hannah said. I wanted to. Sit. Eat. Tell me about your day. So she did. Told him about Victoria Chen, about the new clients, about the sketches for the installation pieces. Ethan listened with complete focus, asking questions that showed he truly understood what she was building. You're going to need a bigger space soon, he said. The bakery's great for what it is, but if you're taking on this level of work, I know, I've been thinking about it. Hannah pushed food around her plate. There's a commercial kitchen space downtown that might work, but it's expensive, and I'd need to secure more consistent income before I could justify the leap. What if someone invested in your business, gave you the capital to expand? Hannah set down her fork. Ethan, no. Why not? Because I need to do this myself, build it on my own merit, not because someone gave me money. It's not giving you money. It's investing in a business with clear growth potential. That's smart economics. It's you trying to rescue me again. It's me trying to be your partner. He leaned forward. Hannah, I have resources. You have talent. Combining them isn't weakness. It's strategy. And when people say I only succeeded because of your money, then you show them the work, the talent, the results. His eyes held hers. Besides, who cares what people say? You know the truth. I know the truth. That's what matters. Hannah thought about it. The old her would have refused immediately, afraid of owing anyone anything. The new her, the one learning to accept help without shame, saw the opportunity. I want to think about it, she said finally. Not refuse, just think. That's all I'm asking. Ethan smiled. No pressure, no timeline, just possibility. They finished dinner watching the city lights, comfortable in the silence between them. Later, standing at the guest room door, Ethan pulled her close. Thank you for today, he said. For what? For letting me be part of your journey, for trusting me enough to show me your sketches, for coming home when you needed rest. He kissed her softly, for choosing to stay. I haven't officially chosen anything yet. I know, but you're still here. That's enough for now. Hannah fell asleep thinking about choices and foundations and the difference between rescue and partnership, about building something real, something lasting, something entirely her own, and about the man down the hall who saw her worth without her having to prove it, who offered help without strings, who loved her enough to wait until she was ready to love him back. She was almost there, almost ready to believe she deserved it, almost ready to choose him not from need, but from want, almost ready to finally, completely, choose herself. Sunday arrived with brilliant autumn sunshine, the kind of day that felt full of promise. Hannah stood in front of the guest room mirror, changing outfits for the third time, her nerves getting the better of her. You look beautiful in all of them, Ethan said from the doorway, making her jump. How long have you been standing there? Long enough to watch you try on every dress you own. He crossed the room, settled his hands on her shoulders. Hannah, breathe. They're going to love you. You keep saying that, because it's true. My mother already does. My brother and sister will follow her lead. He turned her to face him, and even if they didn't, which they will, it wouldn't change anything between us. Hannah looked at him, this man who'd shown up in the middle of the night, who'd defended her without hesitation, who'd given her space to heal and time to grow. Who was looking at her now like she was the only thing that mattered? I'm falling in love with you, she said suddenly. I don't know if I'm ready to say it all the way yet, but I'm getting there, and it terrifies me. Ethan's expression softened into something that made her chest ache. Why does it terrify you? Because loving someone means trusting them not to destroy you, and I've never been very good at trust. Then we'll build it. One day at a time, one dinner at a time. He kissed her forehead. Starting with today. Come on. We're going to be late. The Cross family home was in an elegant neighborhood where old trees lined quiet streets and houses sat back from the road behind iron gates. Catherine answered the door herself, elegant in casual linen, her smile genuine and warm. Hannah, come in, come in. I hope you're hungry. I may have gone slightly overboard with the food. She pulled Hannah into a brief hug that smelled like jasmine and made something inside Hannah's chest crack open slightly. Ethan, your brother's already in the study arguing with your father's portrait about stock portfolios. Some things never change. Inside, the house was beautiful but lived in. Family photos on every surface, books stacked on tables, fresh flowers in simple vases. It felt like a home, not a showroom. A man who looked like a slightly older version of Ethan appeared from a side room, followed by a woman with Catherine's eyes and a knowing smile. You must be Hannah, the man said, extending his hand. James Cross, the better-looking brother. Delusional is more accurate, the woman cut in. Rachel Cross, the sister who keeps these two humble. She studied Hannah with undisguised curiosity. So you're the one who finally cracked through Ethan's defenses. I've been dying to meet you. Rachel, Ethan warned. What? I'm being welcoming. Rachel linked her arm through Hannah's. Come on, let's get you a drink before the interrogation begins. There won't be an interrogation, Catherine called after them. There's always interrogation, Rachel Stage whispered. It's a family tradition. But the interrogation, when it came, was gentle. Over dinner, roasted chicken and vegetables and bread still warm from the oven, the conversation flowed easily. James talked about his work in the company's technology division. Rachel shared stories about her nonprofit foundation, helping women entrepreneurs. Catherine orchestrated everything with the ease of someone who'd been bringing people together for decades. And they included Hannah. Not as an outsider, not as someone who had to earn her place, but as someone who already belonged. Ethan tells us you're having a gallery show, James said, passing the salad. That's impressive. What made you decide to transition from bakery to gallery? I'm not transitioning. I'm expanding. Hannah found herself relaxing despite her earlier nerves. Someone helped me see that what I create is art, not just food. The gallery show is exploring that idea, edible ephemera, the beauty in temporary creations. I love that concept, Rachel said. Art doesn't have to be permanent to matter. Exactly. Some of the most beautiful moments are fleeting. That's what makes them precious. Deep thoughts for a Sunday dinner, James teased. Next you'll be philosophizing about the meaning of life. That comes after dessert, Catherine said. Speaking of which, Hannah, I hope you don't mind, but I attempted one of your recipes, the lavender honey cake from that magazine feature. Fair warning, it won't compare to yours. But when Catherine brought out the cake, it was beautiful, layers perfectly even, frosting smooth, crystallized lavender adorning the top. This is gorgeous, Hannah said sincerely. You're a natural. I had a good teacher. Your recipes are so clearly written, so precise. You have a gift for instruction as well as creation. Catherine cut generous slices. Have you thought about teaching? Workshops maybe, or master classes? The idea hadn't occurred to Hannah, but it sparked something. Actually, that could work with the gallery show. Rebecca mentioned live demonstrations. What if I made them interactive? Teaching sessions where people learn the techniques. That's brilliant, Ethan said, pride clear in his voice. People would pay significant money for that kind of access. And it creates multiple revenue streams, James added, his business mind clearly engaged. Gallery show generates publicity, which drives bakery business, which funds workshops, which builds your reputation, which attracts higher-end clients. It's a perfect cycle. Hannah felt her mind racing with possibilities. I'd need more space. The bakery is too small for teaching sessions. What about that commercial kitchen downtown? Ethan reminded her. The one we looked at. It's expensive. I'd need investors or a business loan, and I don't have the capital for... What if you had a silent partner? James interrupted. Someone who provides capital in exchange for a small percentage of profits, but no creative control. You maintain full ownership of your vision. You just get the resources to execute it properly. Hannah looked between James and Ethan, understanding dawning. You two planned this. We discussed it, Ethan admitted. James has experience with small business investments. I mentioned your situation. He's interested in the opportunity. On its own merits, James clarified. Not as a favor to my brother. Your business model is sound, your talent is exceptional, and the growth potential is significant. This would be a smart investment regardless of your relationship with Ethan. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it, Catherine suggested gently. No pressure, no timeline, just possibility. After dinner, Rachel pulled Hannah aside while the others cleared dishes. Can I give you some advice? Rachel asked. Sister to sister? We barely know each other. Which is why you might actually listen to me. Rachel smiled. Take the investment. I know it feels like charity or rescue or whatever story you're telling yourself about not earning it. But here's the truth. Refusing help when it's offered isn't strength. It's fear disguised as independence. How did you? Because I did the same thing. Spent years refusing to let my family help with my nonprofit because I needed to prove I could do it alone. Know what happened? I struggled for nothing. My pride delayed helping the people who actually needed the foundation. When I finally accepted my mother's investment, I was able to triple our reach within a year. Rachel squeezed her arm. Sometimes accepting help is the bravest thing you can do. They rejoined the others for coffee and conversation that stretched into the evening. Hannah watched the Cross family interact, the gentle teasing, the genuine affection, the way they listened to each other and disagreed without cruelty. This was what family could be, should be. "What are you thinking?" Ethan asked quietly as they stood together on the back patio, watching the sun set through the trees. "That your family is wonderful, that I don't know how to be part of something like this." "You're already part of it. Did you not notice my mother's already planning Christmas and asking what your favorite dishes are?" Hannah laughed despite herself. "She did do that, didn't she? She's claimed you. You're stuck with us now." He pulled her close. "How does that feel?" "Terrifying. Perfect. Both at once." When they finally left, Catherine hugged Hannah at the door with a warmth that felt genuine. "Thank you for coming," Catherine said, "and thank you for making my son happy. I haven't seen him this settled in years. He makes me happy, too." "Good. That's how it should be. Mutual joy, not mutual obligation." Catherine glanced at Ethan, who was saying goodbye to his siblings. "Hannah, can I tell you something, mother to almost daughter?" "Of course." "Whatever happened with your family, whatever pain they caused, it wasn't your fault. You didn't fail them. They failed you." Catherine's eyes were kind but fierce. "And you're allowed to build something better. You're allowed to choose people who choose you back." Hannah felt tears prick her eyes. "How did you know I needed to hear that?" "Because we all need to hear it, especially those of us who spent years thinking love had to be earned." Catherine squeezed her hand. "Come back soon. Next time, bring one of those sugar sculptures Ethan keeps bragging about." The drive home was quiet, comfortable. Hannah leaned against the window, processing everything. "Your family really is perfect," she said finally. "They're not perfect. They're just healthy. There's a difference." Ethan glanced at her. "What did my mother say to you at the door?" "That I'm allowed to choose people who choose me back." "Smart woman, my mother." "Yeah, she is." Back at the apartment, Hannah stood on the balcony staring at the city while Ethan changed out of his dinner clothes. When he joined her, she turned to face him. "I want to accept the investment," she said, "from James, for the business." "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway, because Rachel's right. Refusing help isn't strength, it's fear, and I'm done letting fear make my decisions." Ethan's smile was proud, warm. "This is huge, Hannah." "I know, I'm terrified, but I'm also excited, really, genuinely excited about building something bigger than I imagined." She took his hands. "And I want to do something else." "What's that?" "Move out of the guest room." Ethan went very still. "Hannah, I'm not ready to move in officially, not yet, but I want to look for my own place. Something that's mine, that I choose, that represents who I'm becoming." She met his eyes. "I need to prove to myself that I can stand on my own before I choose to stand beside you." "I understand." His voice was carefully neutral, but she could see the disappointment he was trying to hide. "But," she continued, "once I have that place, once I've built that foundation, I want you to be part of my life. Not because I need rescuing, because I want you there." "Are you saying, I'm saying I love you?" The words came easier than she'd expected. "I'm saying I choose you. Not from desperation or gratitude, but because you see me and I see you, and together we make each other better. I'm saying that once I find my own space, I'd like you to have a key. I'd like this to be real and mutual and built on solid ground." Ethan pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could feel his heart racing. "I love you too. I've loved you since you asked about my mother's orchids. Since you looked at my corporate gala cake like it was a puzzle to solve instead of a paycheck to collect. Since you showed me what it means to see people instead of just using them." They kissed on the balcony with the city lights spreading below them like possibility, like promise, like everything they were building together. The next 3 months passed in a blur of purposeful chaos. Hannah found an apartment, a loft above a bookstore with high ceilings and huge windows, small but entirely hers. She signed the lease with her own money, moved in with her own furniture, built a space that reflected who she was becoming instead of who she'd been forced to be. The commercial kitchen came together with James as her silent partner, exactly as promised. He provided capital and business advice, but never creative input, never control. Hannah named it the Alchemist Studio, an expansion of her original bakery that could accommodate teaching sessions and large-scale production and the installation pieces for her gallery show. Victoria Chen's 3 trial clients became 6, then 12. Hannah hired 2 more assistants, both talented pastry chefs who understood that working for her meant excellence without ego, creativity without drama. Maya became her operations manager, keeping everything running smoothly while Hannah focused on design and client relationships. And the gallery show. The installation pieces consumed her nights and weekends, Ethan often sitting nearby reading or working while she lost herself in sugar and structure and meaning. She created 5 major pieces, each one exploring transformation. Breaking free, chains dissolving into cherry blossoms, representing the courage to leave what holds you back. Becoming, a chrysalis cracking open to reveal wings made of spun sugar so delicate they caught light like stained glass. Chosen, 2 hands reaching for each other, fingers intertwining, made entirely of crystallized honey that glowed golden in the gallery lights. Rising, a phoenix emerging from flames crafted from red and orange sugarwork that seemed to actually flicker. Home, the final piece, a house made entirely of sugar windows, light shining from within, representing the family you build versus the one you're born into. Rebecca wept when she saw them. Hannah, these are extraordinary. You've created something that transcends medium. This isn't just sugarwork. This is fine art. The show opened on a crisp November evening. Hannah stood in the gallery wearing a dress Ethan had insisted on buying her, deep blue that made her feel elegant and powerful, and watched people stream in. Strangers examining her work with genuine interest, critics taking notes, photographers capturing every angle. And there, standing together near the entrance, were Catherine, James, and Rachel, Ethan's family. Her family now, in all the ways that mattered. They came, she said to Ethan, who stood beside her looking impossibly handsome in a dark suit. Of course they came. Family shows up. He squeezed her hand. Are you ready for this? No, yes, I don't know. Hannah took a deep breath. But I'm here anyway. The evening was a blur of conversations and champagne and watching people react to her work. A food critic called it the most innovative intersection of culinary arts and fine art in a decade. A gallery owner from New York asked about future shows. 3 different magazines requested interviews. But the moment that mattered most came near the end of the night when Hannah found herself standing alone in front of Home, her final piece. It's beautiful. The voice made Hannah's entire body tense. She turned slowly, and there stood her mother. Patricia looked older somehow, smaller, not diminished by time, but by the absence of the power she'd always wielded over Hannah. What are you doing here? Hannah asked quietly. I saw the announcement in the paper, the photos of your work. Patricia stepped closer, studying the sugar house with its glowing windows. I didn't think you were serious. About the art, about building something real. I've always been serious, you just never bothered to look. No, I didn't. Patricia's voice cracked slightly. I didn't look because if I acknowledged your talent, I'd have to acknowledge that I'd been wrong. About you. About what mattered. About everything. Hannah waited, giving her mother space to continue. Melissa called me last week, said you'd created something extraordinary, and I should see it before I lost the chance entirely. Patricia's hands twisted together. I told her it couldn't possibly be that impressive, that you were just a baker playing at being an artist. And now? Now I'm standing here looking at work that belongs in a museum, created by a daughter I never really knew. Because I never let myself know you. Patricia finally met Hannah's eyes. I was wrong. About all of it. And I'm sorry. The apology Hannah had waited 28 years to hear landed with unexpected flatness. It didn't erase the pain, didn't undo the damage, didn't magically repair what had been broken. Thank you for saying that, Hannah said carefully. But an apology doesn't fix what happened, doesn't change how you made me feel for my entire life. I know, I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. Your worth, your talent, everything I refused to see before. Patricia glanced around the gallery. You built something extraordinary without us. Maybe because of us, but definitely without us. Without you trying to destroy it, yes. Can I ask, are you happy? Hannah thought about her loft, her business, her gallery show, about Maya and Victoria and Rebecca and the people who valued her work, about Catherine's Sunday dinners and Rachel's advice and James's investment. About Ethan waiting across the room, giving her space to have this conversation, but ready to step in if she needed him. Yeah, she said honestly, I really am. Good. That's good. Patricia's voice was thick with something that might have been regret. I should go. I just wanted to see it. To see you. She turned to leave, then paused. Your father and Melissa, they don't know I came. They think I'm being ridiculous, that you'll come crawling back eventually. But I know better now. You're not coming back. Because you don't need us anymore. I never needed you, Hannah said quietly. I needed parents who loved me. You just happened to be the people who raised me. Those aren't the same thing. Patricia nodded once, sharp and pained, then disappeared into the crowd. Ethan was beside her moments later. Are you okay? Yeah, she apologized. And? And it doesn't change anything. The damage is still there. The years of feeling worthless don't disappear because she finally admitted she was wrong. Hannah leaned into his steady warmth. But it helps. A little. Knowing she can see it now, even if it's too late. Do you want to try to rebuild something with her? Hannah thought about it honestly. Maybe someday, when I'm strong enough that her opinion can't hurt me anymore. But not now, not yet. That's fair. Ethan kissed her temple. Ready to get back to your triumph? Rebecca's been fending off buyers for the last hour. Apparently everyone wants to own a piece of Hannah Whitmore. The show was declared a massive success. 4 of the 5 installation pieces sold for prices that made Hannah dizzy. She'd created beautiful things, and people valued them enough to pay thousands of dollars to own them. But more than the sales, more than the critical acclaim, more than the magazine interviews and the gallery owner from New York who wanted to feature her work, what mattered was the feeling of standing in that space and knowing she'd created something that mattered, something that was entirely, authentically hers. 2 weeks later, on a quiet Sunday morning, Hannah sat in her loft drinking coffee and reviewing the business plan James had helped her develop. The Alchemist studio was booked solid for the next 6 months. She had 3 teaching workshops scheduled. Victoria had referred 8 new high-end clients. Everything was expanding faster than Hannah had imagined possible. A knock at the door interrupted her planning. She opened it to find Ethan holding a bag of bagels and 2 more coffees. I brought breakfast, he said, and a proposition. What kind of proposition? He stepped inside, setting the food on her small kitchen counter. The kind where I ask if you're ready. Ready for what? To choose me. He turned to face her fully. You said you needed to build your own foundation first. You've done that. You have your own space, your own business, your own success that has nothing to do with me. So I'm asking, Hannah Whitmore, are you ready to choose me? Not from need, but from want? Hannah's heart pounded. Are you asking me to move in with you? I'm asking you to build a life with me. What that looks like, living together, maintaining separate spaces, something in between, we can figure out together. But I want to stop waiting. I want to stop being patient. I want to choose you every day and have you choose me back. She crossed the space between them, cupped his face in her hands. I choose you. I choose us. I choose building something real with someone who sees me. Say it again, Ethan whispered. I love you. I choose you. Every day for as long as you'll have me. He kissed her with an intensity that made her knees weak, lifting her slightly off the ground, holding her like she was precious and powerful at once. Move in with me, he said against her lips. Keep this loft if you want, as your workspace or your sanctuary. But come home to me every night. Wake up beside me every morning. Build this life we're creating together. Yes, Hannah breathed. Yes to all of it. 6 months later, Hannah stood in Catherine's garden at a small family gathering, watching spring flowers bloom in the space where she'd first been welcomed into the Cross family. The gathering was ostensibly to celebrate the Alchemist Studio's first anniversary, but really it was an excuse for Catherine to cook and for the family to be together. Happy? Ethan asked, appearing beside her with fresh glasses of wine. Absurdly so. Hannah leaned into him. Sometimes I can't believe this is my life. That I get to create beautiful things and be surrounded by people who value me and come home to you every night. Believe it. You earned it. We earned it. Fair enough. He clinked his glass against hers. To us. To building something beautiful. To choosing ourselves and each other. They kissed in the garden, while Catherine pretended not to watch from the kitchen window, and James made a comment about them being disgustingly happy, and Rachel told him to shut up because it was adorable. Later that evening, back in the penthouse that had become their home, Hannah stood on the balcony looking at the city and thinking about transformation, about the girl who'd sat on cold marble steps feeling invisible, about the woman she'd become, confident, successful, loved, about the journey from breaking point to breakthrough. "What are you thinking?" Ethan asked, joining her with a blanket to ward off the evening chill. "That a year ago I was drowning and didn't even know it. Now I'm flying." "You were always capable of flying. You just needed someone to help you see it." "No." Hannah turned to face him. "I needed to see it myself. You just gave me space to figure that out." "Semantics." He wrapped the blanket around both of them. "Either way, you're extraordinary." "We're extraordinary." "I'll accept that compromise." They stood together as the city lights flickered on below them, as evening turned to night, as one day became another. Hannah thought about family, the one she'd left behind and the one she'd found, about love that was chosen instead of obligated, about building a life on her own terms. She thought about sugar flowers and gallery shows, and teaching workshops filled with people eager to learn, about a business that thrived because she'd stopped apologizing for her talent, about a relationship built on mutual respect instead of need. She thought about home, not a place, but a feeling, safety and acceptance, and the freedom to be exactly who she was. "I love you," she said to Ethan, to the night, to the life they'd built together. "I love you too." He kissed the top of her head. Every day, always. And standing there, wrapped in warmth and possibility and the absolute certainty of being chosen, Hannah finally understood what her mother-in-law had meant all those months ago. Real love wasn't something you earned through perfection. It was something freely given and freely received. It was showing up. It was choosing. It was seeing someone's worth and reflecting it back to them until they could see it themselves. It was transformation, becoming, home. And Hannah Whitmore, baker, artist, daughter, partner, friend, had finally found all three.